Good morning, ma'am. Good morning.
Good
Ma'am,
morning.
hi, ma'am. I just want to know if I'm audible.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
ஹெட்ஃபோன் எடுத்துட்டாங்க. டேய் ஸ்பீக்கர்ல வரணுமே.
அதான் நான் சொல்றேன். ஸ்பீக்கர்ல வரணும் கண்டிப்பா. இவ்வளவு நாள் வந்துட்டு தான் இருந்துச்சு சவுண்ட்.
I'll just make all of you co-hosts.
Morning, ma'am.
Morning. All the best, everybody.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Nice to see your bright faces.
Same here, ma'am.
Hardly. Okay. I have to make you co-host. What is it?
Good morning, Preeti. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Good
Morning,
morning,
sir.
Sir, do you want co-host status, sir? Sivaraman, sir? Are you going to? You're not going to share anything? Are you going to share?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
No.
Good morning, Vasiki. Good to see you here. Okay. Principal ma'am is yet to come. What about the students, Sumati?
They're coming, Preeti.
Ma'am, can you make me a co-host, ma'am?
Yeah, I put a call.
I made you know.
Call to that.
Yes, Vinita. Sangeeta, I've made. Sangeeta, have I made you co-host? Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
மம்மி எப்ப ஆன் பண்றது பா மியூட்ல போட்டோம்ப்பா டேய் அம்மா டேய்
துணி போட்டீங்களா அது? $79 ஆயிடுச்சு.
Good morning, Preeti ma'am.
Good morning. Good morning.
Ma'am, can you please co-host Angie Share, ma'am?
There's another one over there. My tab.
Okay. I did that, I think.
Okay,
No?
ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Oh, yeah, I've done it. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Has principal ma'am come? Not yet, no? 9:30. I'll just do a trial run of our promotional video. Is it playing?
And we can't see the video.
Huh? You can't see the video? No, not yet.
It shows that your computer screen, your desktop PC, that screen is showing. It's not showing the video.
Oh. So, now? Yes or no? Is it showing? Oh. Maybe the MP3 format will.
இந்தி திரைப்பட நடிகர் ஒருவர் திரும்ப அன்மியூட் போட்டு மியூட் தானே அர்த்தம் ஸ்டாப் பண்ணிட்டு காலையில எழுந்திருக்கா 2 மணிக்கு போறேன் அங்க உட்கார போறேன்
I think we will not have the promotional video.
Why use your ability,
Ma'am, shall I try playing it?
Please do, please do.
ability grow.
It's coming, Vinita. Audio Vinita, it's coming, but maybe you'll have to play some audio, some other audio.
Hello, good morning, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible. Welcome, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, madam. Good morning, madam.
Good morning. Sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Vinita, shall we play that or shall we proceed without it?
Shall I play it?
It's coming without the audio. You can just play some other instrumental in the background. Fine.
Try, ma'am.
Huh?
I'll try. Not sure about the audio, but I can play the video. I thought it's coming properly, but don't know what's wrong. Shall I play it now?
Yes, and if possible, some other audio to go with it.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, ma'am.
We started some.
நான் ஹால் போயிடும்பா. பெட்ஷீட் எல்லாம் மடிச்சு ஹால் போயிடும்பா.
So use your ability. By use your ability.
Was it audible, ma'am?
It's fine, we'll start. Sumati, ma'am. I request all the participants to mute, the faculty and participants to mute, except for the resource persons, the rest can mute.
It's not available, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, she can start. Sumati, you can start.
Yes. Good morning, one and all. Now, time for prayer song, Tamil Thai Vaadhu.
நீராறும் கடலுடுத்த நிலமடந்தை கெழிலொழுகும் சீராரும் மதனமென நிகழ்வரத கண்டனில் எக்கணமும் அதில் சிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு திரை முதலும் தரிதனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறன் தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறன்
Sorry for
Okay, ma'am. Preeti, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, ma'am. It's all's well, it ends well. I welcome our revered principal, Dr. Uma Maheshwari ma'am, Queen Mary's College. I welcome Dr. Ramakrishnan sir, head of the department, President of the College. I welcome Dr. Sivaraman sir, Associate Professor, Department of English, Presidency College. I welcome Dr. Sayuja Shankar, an Assistant Professor, Department of English, Stella Maris College. I welcome our head of the department, Dr. Maria Preeti Srinivasan, who is very instrumental for the emancipation of this program. And I welcome our department colleagues and our dear students. Welcome one and all. Today, the purpose of the program is to facilitate the students of a postgraduate to understand the vistas of the course of MA program, its values and functions, and we are sure this will inspire them to have to lead to the next level, to augment for the central objective of our college. Now, may I request our head of the department, Dr. Maria Preeti Srinivasan, to confer her welcome address. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, Mrs. Sumati. Good morning. I deem it an honor and privilege to welcome all those present here today at this event, the orientation program for our first MA students, the batch of 2020 to 22. As the proverbial expression by Shakespeare goes, all the world's a stage and the men and women merely players. So also in this event, each of us has our role to play. The organizers have their roles, the guests have their roles. As the head of the department, I am deeply honored to have the role of presenting the welcome address. And I have been given the role of and privilege of working under the leadership of an able administrator, our principal, Dr. Uma Maheshwari. Having said that, I would like to state that it is an honor for all of us, faculty and students, to be part of this time-honored institution, Queen Mary's College, which has rendered service in the cause of education for 106 years. A college of this stature and standing has been blessed with a principal who is committed, dynamic, and wise. As they say, discretion is the right arm of valor, and Madam has both discretion and boldness of spirit in her decision making. This is what we have seen of Madam's style of working. In short, she has both vision and passion, which I think are twin qualities, and they are like a pair of wings which will take our college to greater heights. We will soar to greater heights under the leadership of our principal, Dr. Uma Maheshwari. On the academic front, she has published several papers in her field, which is physics, and she has an established reputation as an able administrator. Her administrative acumen is remarkable. She made a significant, I request you to mute yourself, students. Kindly mute your audios. She has made a significant contribution and upgraded the system during her tenure as Controller of Examinations at Bharati Women's College. In her role as principal, she works round the clock. It's no exaggeration to say that Madam works round the clock. You can find her work online, late hours, early morning. In her role as principal, I have found her to be very dedicated and systematic in her functioning, and this has truly inspired me and my colleagues. Moreover, she is progressive in her outlook. She looks at problems as challenges and works to surmount them. It is this positive spirit that has endeared her to all the staff of Queen Mary's College, and we are motivated to give our best to the institution under the leadership of our principal. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our principal madam for encouraging us to go ahead with this initiative, the orientation program for First MA. I welcome you, madam, to this event, which has been made possible through your kindness and encouragement.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, madam. Our guest of honor for this occasion is a friendly neighbor, Dr. Ramakrishnan, Associate Professor and Head, Department of English, Presidency College, Colleg. He has 22 years of teaching experience at the postgraduate level and is also guiding PhD scholars. He has presented papers at the national and international levels. His area of specialization are African American literature, British literature, Indian writing in English, and ELT, English language teaching. I would personally take this opportunity to place on record the deep sense of gratitude that my colleagues and I have to Dr. Ramakrishnan for being a friend of our department. He has obliged us every time we have asked him to come over for the Board of Studies or for any academic help and guidance that we have required. He is truly a friendly neighbor. He's just down the road from us, a few kilometers away, and always lends a helping hand whenever we need. I welcome you, dear sir, to this event, and I'm certain that the thoughts that you share in your inaugural address will benefit the students.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am.
I also take this opportunity to welcome another friend of the department. And it's with a deep sense of gratitude that I welcome Dr. Shivaraman, Associate Professor of English at Presidency College. He is the chairperson for sessions 1 and 2 of this event. He has been a great source of support to our department, always obliging us when we request him to come over as a resource person. Dr. Sivaraman has an impressive academic profile, which our colleague, Mrs. Sumati, will share with you later. I just say a few things though. We are privileged to be associated with this erudite person. I welcome you to this event, and I also take this opportunity to let our audience know that you have played a role in shaping this program. You have given your inputs to the resource person, and we are very thankful to you for joining us at the preparatory session of this event, which we had a few days ago.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Welcome, sir. Ms. Sayuja Shankar, the chairperson for session 3, is Assistant Professor of English at Stella Maris College. You will hear more about her academic accomplishments when she's introduced before session 3. But I would like to share that I am grateful to my dear friends, Dr. Padma McCurtich and Dr. Rufus of Madras Christian College, Dr. Padma of Stella Maris and Dr. Rufus of Madras Christian College, to bringing Sayuja onto my horizon. This talented young researcher and gifted teacher, Ms. Sayuja, it is our pleasure and privilege to have her as chairperson for session 3, and I extend a warm welcome to you, Sayuja. I'm grateful to my colleagues, the resource persons for today's orientation program, for the spirit with which they have taken upon themselves the task of reaching out to the first MA students and the passion they have to hone their academic skills and potential. I welcome Dr. Bala Ambigai, my colleague, who will be speaking on cultural studies, Dr. Sumati, who will be speaking on eco-criticism. She's also the organizing secretary of this event. Dr. Vinita Francis is speaking on gender studies. Dr. Sadhana will be speaking on Indian writing and translation, and Ms. Angeline Fernando on English language teaching. I also place on record my thanks to Vasuki for stepping in to help in organizing the program and taking the role of presenting the vote of thanks. So my dear friends and colleagues, I'm sure your efforts will go a long way in shaping and sharpening the academic acumen of our students. I would like to acknowledge similar work, an induction program for first UG students done by another team, where Mrs. Raksha was the organizing secretary. Dr. Sandhya, Dr. Urmila, and Mrs. Kartika Devi were resource persons, and this event was held 2 months ago. I welcome all my colleagues to this event and express my heartfelt thanks for their support in all the endeavors of the department. And now, the stakeholders, our students, dear first MA students, this is your day. I welcome you to this intellectual feast and wish you all the best for your studies at Queen Mary's College. Have a fruitful 2 years with us at the Department of English. The second PG students are also here as participants. I welcome them and their tutor, Mrs. R. Priya. May the time we spend together today be enriching for all of us. God bless you. Thank you.
Madam, host side la irundhu mute பண்ணலாம்னு நினைக்கிறேன். I think we have the option to mute all the mics from the host side.
Mute all, okay. But
as a host, we can.
Yes, ma'am, I can, and I can unmute you, no, ma'am. Now I should look for.
Now it's perfect, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I'm really sorry about this.
No, not at all.
Thank you so much, Preeti ma'am. We are all happy to have these eminent personalities together on this stage for today's program. Thank you once again. Now may I request our principal, most respected principal, Dr. Uma Maheshwari ma'am, to deliver the presidential address.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, madam.
Okay. So a very good morning to every one of you present in this online venue today. I thank Dr. Maria Priti Srinivasan for her nice words about me. I feel greatly honored and humbled, madam. Thank you very much. And I congratulate Dr. Maria Priti Srinivasan, and of course I thank her and her team for organizing this orientation program for first MA students and giving me this chance to deliver the presidential address on this wonderful occasion. I extend my pleasant welcome to Dr. Ramakrishnan, Associate Professor and Head of the Department of English, Presidency College, who is going to deliver the inaugural address, and Dr. Sivaram, Associate Professor, Department of English, Presidency College, who is going to be the chairperson in the session 1. Please do accept our warm welcome, sir, on behalf of our institution. And my warm welcome to all new first MA students. So you are finally back on campus. Of course, now off campus due to this pandemic situation, but this time to graduate with a PG degree. Some of you may be familiar with the campus after having done your UG degree here, while others may be entirely new to the college. Either way, you have decided to do a master degree and have made a right choice to get into this premier institution and here us to a bright future. So, my dear students, though you had been this transition to this college life, but still there is so much to be very curious and feel excited. Let me call this excitement as spark within you. How to keep the spark shining, or put it another way, how to save the spark. Imagine the spark to lamp's flame. The first aspect is nurturing, to give your spark the fuel continuously. You can nurture your spark by setting the academic and career goals. And the second is to guard against the storms. So many external factors will affect the journey towards your achievement, may affect your journey to achieve your goals. Most of us are from middle class families. To us, having material landmark is success, and rightly so. When you have grown up where money constraints force everyday choices, financial freedom is a big achievement. But it is not the purpose of life. If that was the case, Mr. Ambani would not show up for his work. Shah Rukh Khan would stay at home and may not act anymore. Steve Jobs won't be working hard to make a better phone as he had sold already many models for billions of dollars. Why do they do it? What makes them come to work every day? They do it because it makes them happy. They do it because it makes them feel alive. Just getting better from current levels feels good. Striving for the next level is important, and so you have moved from UG level to PG level. One of the great thing about being a PG student is that you have already experienced and successfully managed the transition to college life. Therefore, I feel that I don't have to share with you the advice which I gave to the incoming UG students earlier. What I will say to you that you should make the most of your time in QMC. As PG students, you would have mastered the demand of college learning, and now you have the opportunity to deepen your knowledge domains to which you were not exposed to during your UG studies. I also exhort you to use the time to refine your skills that will enhance your employability and to face NET and SET exams. Here in Department of English, incredibly talented faculty will be your guides and allies in your exploration. They are your greatest resource. The scholars here are leaders in their fields and are applying their expertise through research and real world practice to address most pressing challenges of the day. Get to know them, talk to them after class hours, seek them out at campus events, discuss them discuss with them about their research, tell them about your own ideas, and of course they will guide you, open the doors to new possibilities, and take you to new academical heights. Above all, nature has designed us with a random set of genes and circumstances in which we are born. To be happy, we have to accept it and make most of nature's design. Goals will help you to do that. I must add further, don't just have career and academic goals. Set goals to give you balanced, successful life. To my students, I used to give this advice. You should have not only a successful life, but also a balanced life. Why I use the word balanced before successful? Because balanced means ensuring your health, relationships, and mental health are all in good order. So, to conclude, I congratulate each and every one of you on having secured your post graduation in this premier institution, Queen Mary's College, and I wish every one of you every success at QMC, and I am confident that you will find it an immensely rewarding experience. Thank you.
Sumati, just a moment. Thank you, madam. I just want to express my heartfelt thanks for your words of wisdom. Thank you so much, madam.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your very illuminating and thought-provoking speech, ma'am. I'm sure our students will take your advice with the right spirit and with a warm heart, ma'am. Thank you once again, ma'am. Now, may I request Dr. Ramakrishnan, sir, to deliver the inaugural address.
Should I unmute him?
It's not audible.
No, I must have muted him.
Yeah, is it okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Actually, I take great pleasure in thanking the principal who has made this entire event possible by allowing the Department of English, Queen Mary's College, to hold such an academic event for the benefit of the new entrants to their PG. First of all, apart from thanking the principal, I would also like to thank Maria Priti Srinivasan, who has always been very cordial. And as she has pointed out during her introductory speech, we are neighbors, but there is no mending wall in between. We continue to be neighbors. We help each other. We exchange ideas. All things that are related to academics have been discussed whenever we meet each other. I also thank all the department staff members, as well as Dr. Shivaraman, who is my colleague at Presidency, and other resource persons who have come here to help the students. When I received an invitation, one thing was very specific as well as alarming for me. That was the time limit allotted to me. I was supposed to, in fact, I'm supposed to talk only 15 minutes. Okay, for 15 minutes is enough, definitely, for an inaugural address. But it should not be an inaugural address which you listen everywhere. So I would like to divide my inaugural speech into 10 important points for the benefit of the students. First of all, I would like to start my speech by taking a cue from what your principal has recently said during her talk. That is, love for doing something. That is, you should be committed. More than commitment, you should have that inclination and love to pursue something. Then she told us how Shah Rukh Khan, Ambani and others, in spite of having made a lot of money, they still continue to be in their profession because of the passion. See, that is what I want the new entrants to do, to practice. Because by love of literature, what I mean is, don't read for marks, don't read for grades. See, I had been to Chennai so many times in the past, because I moved over to Chennai only in 2015. But now I am talking about what happened in my college days. We used to come to Marina Beach, as you, like all others. We were here to enjoy whatever Chennai offered to us that time in terms of entertainment. But never did I think that I would be part of this entire academic structure, because I used to look at the physical structure of Presidency College, Queen Mary's, and I never thought I would enter these academies of excellence one day. So what brought me here is my love for literature. So you need to start from your own self. So I don't think that I blow my own trumpet here, because I am here to tell you the very same experiences which I have undergone when I was a student like you. So the first thing, you need to love what you do and never read for marks and grades, because I do know in these 22 years of experience, people who come with 90% of marks or 88% of marks, which were unthought of in those days. The maximum we could get in those days was 62, 63. Even 70 plus was almost unheard of. Very rarely would they give 70 plus. Then if anyone who got 70 plus during those years, nearly 30 years back, would be definitely the most informed person. He should have been the most intelligent of all. But now, you know, we are given marks, okay? And I don't want to go into detail about the awarding of marks. But what I want the students to do is never ever worry about the marks and grades you get. They would never help you, okay? Because the moment you are asked to present something during the interview, they would very easily judge you, not by the marks you have secured, but by the way you present the things. And the next point, I think the primary reason for Maria Preeti to invite me, that is love for classics. That is, you need to pursue classics in any field and in any form. Because by classics, what do we mean? There is a saying that classic is something, a book, for example, in the field of literature, classic is a book which everyone talks about, but seldom reads. That is the definition given. In fact, part of it was true, because nowadays you never find anyone reading Shakespeare with interest or Milton with passion. We never do that. We have moved away completely from our roots, our basics. So why do I want you to read classics? Because they are the works which have been tested by time, tested and put to rigorous examination by various critics and intelligent minds. So you need to read classics all the time, because all other isms which all other resource persons are going to discuss with you, I'm happy to know that you have so many of them: gender studies, eco-criticism, and whatnot. Every branch of knowledge related to literature is going to be introduced to you, presented to you in the sessions to come. But all these things definitely gain their sustenance from classics. And if you take immense interest in classic, that will help you not only in nurturing your thoughts, but also your language skills. Because language skill, people usually think nowadays that it is enough if you know how to communicate. Okay, that's good. The English communication is enough, just a mere communication for ordinary people, for students belonging to other departments. But in case of literature students, we need to know the nuances of the language. If you go and tell someone, this room, for example, a person goes into a hotel where he finds a signboard saying alcohol free, immediately some of them may think, okay, we could get some glass of wine here free of cost, free of charge. You could know that is not the meaning. Alcohol free, you could find that on some of the medicines we take, especially for cold, wherein you will find on the sticker alcohol free, means it is free of alcohol. So free alcohol is different from alcohol free. We need to know them. We need to know it. There are so many expressions like that in English. If the students belonging to other departments, they may not know these nicer things, the nuances. But as students of English, most of you are definitely going to be either teachers or lecturers or professors in future, or some of you may even turn to media writing. You need to be very good at English. For that also, the classics would help you. So the reason I ask you to stick to classics, to read classics more, is twin focused. One is you will know the great thoughts presented to you in purest form. The second one is the language in which those thoughts are presented are equally impressive and almost unbeatable. You cannot compare the language of classic writing. The next one, the third point I would like to tell you, is about the analytical reading. See, you have passed through your UG. In UG, we didn't expect you to be not so analytical as far as your answers are concerned. If you know the concepts well, okay, for example, if you have a poem or if you have a novel, it is enough if you know how the incidents take place, how the events are described, okay, what are the main themes. These are enough. But the moment you step into MA, you need to sharpen your intellectual part of your brain. You need to analyze everything, okay? And let me tell you, every reading is a misreading, whether I read it or someone else reads it, because it starts with impressions. People say that you talk based on your impressions. Yes, without impressions, nothing would take place. We need to see, impression is the first step in the ladder of progress. From impression, you move on to that universally accepted fact, things about that particular work. So in order to get proper impression, you need to analyze the books you read critically. That is, critically means you should not just look for the words that are found, the meanings of words and expressions that are found on the page of a book. Rather than that, you need to read between lines what is not said, but what is implied. That is what I mean by that analytical and critical reading. Then next one, comparison. See, however absurd your comparison is, never worry about it, because whenever you read a work of art, definitely it will give you a kind of image. Okay, you try to associate certain things in your brain whenever you read something. They may not have significance for others, but definitely it has some significance for you. So don't worry about what others think of your comparison. Never worry about it. Let me tell you one example from my side. Even a couple of days back, my friend, Dr. Shivaraman, who is here, who is going to be a chairperson for 2 sessions, he forwarded me one message about what Kavingar Wali said about a particular song of Kavingar Kannadasan. That is Mayakama Kalakama, that song. Because that song actually made a great impact on Wali. That Wali, when he decided to leave that profession, he happened to listen to that song and he changed his mind and he stayed back to fight. And in fact, he grew as equal, okay, to of Kannadasan. He was his contemporary, and he also grew in stature, and in fact he competed with Kannadasan. So that particular video was sent to me by Dr. Shivaraman. The message I replied to that message with the following words. I am happy to listen to it, even though I have known that video has been in circulation for so many years now after its publication by a particular channel. One thing I would like to listen to it again and again, because it tells me, it sounds to me that as if Ben Jonson is glorifying Shakespeare. This is what I said, because I always compare in my mind. That is why I said, however absurd, it may not be meaningful to you, but is some kind of meaning is to me in it there. For example, I usually consider Kannadasan as Shakespeare of Tamil cinema lyrics, and Pattukottai Kalyana Sundaram as Marlowe, because people would say, had Pattukottai Kalyana Sundaram lived longer, he could have been a better poet than Kannadasan. So in that context also, I always liken that gentleman to Marlowe and Wali to Ben Jonson. See, these things may appear completely insignificant, meaningless, even confusing to others, but not to you, not to me in this case. So you always try to look for comparison. When we talk about comparison, one thing that is needed to make you compare certain things with others, that is memory. This is the last characteristic. Okay, we have lost our ability to memorize. As soon as we come out of school, the moment we join our UG, that earlier remnants of the power of memorization would linger with us, at least for the first semester. The moment we got into the second semester of UG, most of the students, they lose their ability to remember. The reason behind it is the way we frame our syllabus. Because in schools, from 9th standard onwards, or sometimes even from 6th or 7th standard onwards, they prescribe certain passages in vernacular or in English, and the students are expected to memorize. The students are expected to memorize, and they are asked to repeat. They are asked to render, recite. But unfortunately, we fail to introduce such type of thing. So it needs the individual to promote, okay, to nurture that particular skill, because memory would definitely help you. Let me quote one example from the life of Macaulay. Most of you English teachers definitely might have studied the life of Macaulay, wherein Macaulay points out that if by any chance Paradise Lost is lost, disappears from this world forever due to some calamity, he says that he will be able to recite the entire Paradise Lost from his memory. And we feel happy. We feel surprised. How could a gentleman talk like that? But that was a fact. Because we need to memorize things, because rhythm always helps memory. Remember, why do we know so many cinema songs or so many devotional songs? When a thing is set with music, the rhythm helps us to remember so many things. In fact, during this particular Corona pandemic period of 6 months, I did one thing. I memorized the entire book of Ballad of Reading Gaol by Oscar Wilde. You may think, sir, what is the relevance of that? Do we have any relevance just because we learn something by memory, because you call it by rote? No. Those people who are familiar with Ballad of Reading Gaol, they definitely know the entire essence of Bible could be seen, could be felt in the lines of Oscar Wilde. So you need to, if not everything, you try to memorize things which appeal to you. Okay? Because the moment you see something by its beauty, okay, by the beauty that is present in that lines or in that phrases, you will definitely be attracted and try to learn it, okay, with the help of your memory. Then next point, try to focus on unexplored areas. You need to constantly follow unexplored areas, because what is the use of doing research work again and again in R.K. Narayan, Anita Desai, all other modern writers or even Western writers, because almost they have become fossilized. You could see Anita Desai only in a museum now, because so much has been done. But I don't know whether her works are that much important, whether they would lend themselves to that type of exhaustive dissertations. It's my personal view, but I am not going to talk about the merits and demerits of Anita Desai as a writer here. The thing is, there are so many things in literature which almost were either unnoticed or unexplored. Again, one example from my own life. See, when I took up Elizabeth Gaskell for my PhD, many people raised their eyebrows, even my own guide. He said, what is the significance? What is the relevance of reading Gaskell in the 21st century? Yes, it has its relevance. Unfortunately, we try to connect the concept of time with great literary works. See, literary works cannot be pinned down by time. Remember that. We always know that great literature transcends time. There is no time limit for all these things. So when I took that up, people were not happy. This brings me to the next thing I am going to tell you. Dear students, never go after any fashion. Stick to your own choice. Listen to what your mind says, what your heart says. Never go after fashion, because it was a fashion during that day when I was doing my PhD to do something about certain areas of criticism, okay, especially feminism, because I did my PhD in 2012. So around that period, feminism was in vogue. Every second PhD was done on feminism. The same is happening with eco-criticism now. If you ask anyone, they say, I am doing on eco-criticism. Okay, if you are really interested in that field, do that, go ahead. But just because it is fashionable to do that, just because others will think of you badly, if you are not up with, you are not catching up on the modern, or the race, okay, the modern race for this particular type of writing dissertations and theses. Never be like that. Never go after a fashion. Listen to your heart. You may even do it on Shakespeare today, provided that you are going to say something new, something meaningful, something significant. So nothing will deter you from taking up classics. So never ever listen to people who advises you, because it is not technology. Literature is not technology. Okay, technology will become defunct, okay, meaningless after 5 or 6 years. The new technology will replace it, but values cannot be replaced like that. And all these classics, the earlier writings, they are filled with values for us to emulate and to practice. And next one, never be Eurocentric. See, we always, the worst thing that we do in academics, the very defect I find in almost 90% of academicians throughout India is they always try to look at the book written in Indian languages, which are subsequently translated into English, from the Eurocentric point of view. They always try to measure the importance, okay, the significance, the meaning, and everything by comparing it to some European standards. Don't do that. See, after all, these literary works are the productions of the local culture. You need to address these things in your writing, in your dissertations, because you may be writing about an American author or a British author, but as soon as the presentation is over, when you come out of the room, you need to wait for the bus near Marina Beach with all the reality. See, you can't live forever in that so-called world. So if it is so, why should you try to estimate something from the European point of view? Don't try to do that. That is one thing. And next thing, translations. All of you should be good enough to be very choosy in reading translations, because translation is again something that saves your time. For example, you may not read something that comes out in French, but when the translation is available in Tamil or English, at least you get the partial knowledge of what was to be found in the original. Because sometimes intentionally I made use of that word choosy. You need to be very choosy in translations. Again, go for good translations, because so many people nowadays, they go on translating. Recently, again, let me tell you, see, I always talk with facts and figures. Recently, I found a book. It was in the hands of one university professor. And that book was a translation of Bharadiyar's poems by one writer, Usha Rajagopalan. And interestingly, it is published by Everyman India. You know how great that publication or that organization is, Everyman. Because in those days, Everyman means they would bring out only classics. See, in that, there was a poem which was translated by her, Panjali Sabadam. It was translated, the title, I am not going into the details of the poems, how each line is translated. No, just to look at the title. The title Panjali Sabadam was translated as Panchali's pledge. It should have been Panjali's vow. There is a lot of difference between the word pledge and vow. They are not equal. But these writers, they always think that no one would notice that. The thing is, they never apply themselves. To be a good translator, you need to be very good at both the languages. For example, they never take any effort to write properly. That's the problem. See, let me tell you, if any book is written without effort, it will never be read with pleasure. You need to know this. There are so many things. One poem was about Amma Kannu. That poem, Amma Kannu, Bharadiyar's poem, that it was given the title Amma Kannu by Bharadiyar. But Amma Kannu is also a term of endearment, okay, in Tamil. when we address our children. Sometimes we use that, but it was not the meaning Bharadiyar intended, because there was a lady called Amma Kannan in Pondicherry who helped Bharadiyar and his family escape arrest from the British forces. Actually, in that poem, he was actually talking about that lady Amma Kannan. It was a name, but unfortunately, this Usha Rajagopalan translated it in some other as a special song. More than that, in one of the poems, Agni Kunjondru Kante, the last line is Tattidigida Tattidigida Tattadigida Thob. This is the line. But how could you translate this into English? Is it possible? No. But somehow this lady, I think she might have referred to some thesaurus, and she continuously wrote the verse that refers to the sounds usually the campfire makes. For example, whoosh, crackle, okay, snap, sizzle. But that is not Bharadiyar intended you to know. So go for good translations. Let me give you again that there is a classical example for that. Read Nalavanba by Maurice Langston. You will be surprised to know how beautifully that man presented the Tamil classic Nalavanba into English. Not only meaning, you look at the meter. In Tamil, there is a special meter for that. And he was almost similar. He wrote it in pentameter, which is somewhat similar to the Tamil version in which originally it was written. And as well as I'm happy to find in your syllabus, Riders Shakuntala. See, these are the things this generation should know. Otherwise, they would consider useless people as their models. Don't do that. So I'm happy that it is part of your syllabus. And be diligent and committed. 9th point, I think one more point. With one more point, I will stop because I would like to finish it off. Okay. The 9th point is be diligent and committed, because the time is also important. It is all about time management. You need to read, you need to apply yourself, because after all, if you are not diligent and committed, you are not going to achieve anything in your life. And one thing I would like to tell you, the capacity to learn is a gift. Some people, they learn easily. The capacity to learn is a gift. The ability to learn is a skill which you can develop, but the willingness to learn is your choice. Remember that. You exercise that choice. Anyone can learn by exercising the choice to learn. And last one, language skills. Final one. All these things I have mentioned earlier would make you good at the language also, because you need to know the nuances of English language. Unfortunately, nowadays, no one knows the difference between will and shall when they are used with different subjects. That is a totally wrong conception. See, we have simplified everything. Just because we are not able to understand, what we did was we simplified everything. And that is what our students are also going to do in future. Whenever they couldn't understand something, they would simplify it. They would come out with their very own version. Look at the example of the Tamil word "ni." There is one word in "ni," "nya," "ni." That "ni" word almost disappeared from Tamil, because no one uses that letter anymore. Then "aida eluthu." How many writers use "aida eluthu" in Tamil? "Agadu," "igadu," no one uses. So it also disappears. See, this is the disservice we do to our language. Not only to our language, to other languages also. So we need to keep what is good in everything. Okay. Then one final word. Long back, when I gave a person a classic, a particular work, and I asked him to go through that. And that gentleman, he was also a professor. He was a professor. In fact, he retired. He was a professor. After a week, he gave that book back to me and said that he could not find anything interesting in that. Okay, it may be about the taste. Okay, people have different taste in fashion, in food. Okay, everywhere you have taste. So may not be tasteful to him. But let me tell you one thing. A classic is a mirror. Remember, a classic book is a mirror. If an ass looks into it, you cannot expect an apostle to look out of it. It is not possible. So keep all these things in mind, okay? And try to understand slowly. Be patient, okay? Never run out of patience. Patience and persistence. These two things would help you to master anything in this world. And I hope the people who are going to give lectures after me, they are going to give you with so many, teach you so many things, okay? All the important aspects of criticism from that message I received. I found out all these things, that you are going to be introduced to salient parts of English criticism and critical theories. And you try to learn them as patiently as possible, okay? Never try to be in a hurry to learn a language or literature. You take time. Everything takes time in life. Rome was not built in a day. You take your own time. Don't worry that if you go out of Queen Mary's College with your MA degree in your hand, knowing nothing, at least you can start reading after that. Most of the time, we start reading only after getting our PhD. That's the truth in most cases. I'm talking about from my own point of view. It may be wrong. There are gifted people, okay? That's different. But I'm talking about ordinary people. So learning has no limits. At any time you can start. But the thing is, be committed to it, be sincere, take a lot of interest in whatever you do, and never look back, never regret that you have taken literature. Because I am happy now because I have taken literature. Because even people belonging to all other departments, when they want to get something, when they want to get solace, okay, they only go to literature or arts or other things related to literature. So whereas we are actually reading literature to get marks. So don't do that. Enjoy what you do. Never worry about marks. With these words, I hope that I have given a slice of what I have undergone and what I want you to do in order to become a better student, a knowledgeable student, and a student with awareness. Okay, with these words, I wind up my speech. I thank the entire department of Queen Mary's College, the head of the department, the principal, and whoever that is behind the organization of this particular meeting. I thank them all, and I hope that I would meet you in some other capacity in future. And I thank all the resource persons also who are waiting here to continue. They are the players who are going to play their parts. Now my part is over. Okay, I have announced what I told you is a prologue. The prologue is now over. There will be actors, there will be a drama. After that, there will be an epilogue. Okay, but however, this is a good academic dialogue, which I really like. Thank you very much. Thank you, Preeti, for having arranged this wonderful academic event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sumati, your permission to say a few words. Thank you, sir. I was truly spellbound, and I found myself a learner today when I was listening to you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It is very enlightening and a very interesting overview about literature and the today's session, sir. And also, we feel proud to have you in our college and sharing this occasion. And really, your motivational speech is an eye-opener to our students, sir. And they're all very fortunate to listen to your speech. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Ma'am, I would like to join later. With all your permission, I just log off and come back later.
Thank you, sir.
After some time. I would also be, I am also a learner. I would also like to so many things to be presented by your staff members. Definitely, I join you later.
And please feel free to offer your comments and remarks.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now, it's time to commence the sessions. Today's program comprises 3 sessions. Session 1, and it is meant to give a detailed insight about the course content of NET exams to the students and to guide them to the ways to prepare well, as this is the common denominator to work as teachers. This session is formulated in such a manner. Ms. Sangeeta, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Queen Mary's College, and Mrs. Nazim, Department of English, will share this session. Professor Dr. Srinivasan sir, extremely sorry. Professor Dr. Subramanian sir, Associate Professor, Department of English, Presidency College, will chair the session. In the width of literary arena, we find Professor Dr. Sivaraman, Associate Professor, as a recipient of NAB Award, NAB Award from His Excellency, the Governor of Tamil Nadu, for his tremendous service to the education of a visually challenged community. Sir has rendered his service as a panelist for Tata Consultancy Services. We are all very proud to know his service in recruiting persons with visual impairment for the post of soft skills trainer. Adding on, he is servicing as the coordinator of Arunodaya Presidency College Resource Center are differently labeled, and it is very remarkable that he converted more than 30,000 books into accessible audio series. Pass it to you, sir. He presented papers on several times on multiple subjects and acted as a resource person on many times and in variety of workshops. He has been doing as a resource person, and he is invited as a resource person also by Tanche to conduct a workshop on the use of theater in classrooms. It is sure that the session will get sizzled nicely as he chairs. Now, Assistant Professor, Department of English, will share her guidelines and experiences upon NET exams. That follows about the resource person, Miss Sangeeta, and she is a theater enthusiast, drama club mentor for the students of Department of English. We are very happy to share she acted and directed in many street plays. A very benevolent professor, Ms. Sangeeta is, and she conducted theater workshops for the underprivileged children in the rural areas. I request now Sangeeta to share the session.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am? Thank you so much.
Yes, you're audible. You're audible.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am, sorry to interrupt, but then Nazim will be starting the session. It's the first part of the session is Nazim, so she will be taking it.
Okay, now go to Nazim. Just to share things about the resource person. Yes, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am? Just a few seconds, Nazim, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, you're audible. You're audible.
It is Nazim Fatima, Assistant Professor, Department of English, is going to explain the pattern and the ways to get through. And she's a person. Actually, she's a B graduate, but her passion on literature shapes her an English professor. And she is very much interested in the study of psychoanalysis, deconstruction, and post-structuralism. Now, may I call Professor Nazim to share the platform.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam, for giving such an intro about myself. Our respected principal, our beloved HOD ma'am, our chairperson, Dr. Ramakrishnan sir, and Sivaraman sir. Good morning to all of you. I'm really so glad to be a part of this orientation program. I take upon this opportunity to thank my uh, beloved HOD ma'am, Preeti ma'am, for giving me this opportunity. So it is a there is always a question which is lingering in mind, like how to attain or how to achieve net or set, and I think this session would be helpful. Sankita, can you share me the PPT?
Yes. Is my screen visible to you? Is the screen visible?
No.
Okay. Okay, 1 second.
Yeah.
Yes, is it visible now?
Yeah, it has started sharing.
Is the screen visible to everybody, ma'am, Nazim?
It has just started sharing and it's yet to be visible. I'm just waiting for it.
It's visible to me. Visible to me. I can see the screen.
Yes, the first page is on the screen.
It's not visible from my end. Give me a minute.
Okay. Nazim, is it visible now?
No, it's not visible. I think that's a problem from my end. There is a connectivity issue.
Ma'am, is it visible for everybody?
It's visible, yeah. It's visible.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I'll just begin up.
Yeah. Yes, Nazim.
Yeah. So, second slide. Yeah. So our life is full of challenges, I could say. In every part of life, we face challenges. Like uh, all the stages, we actually have to face challenges. So the challenge which comes to us when we choose our MA program and what are we going to do in future is the question that's lingering in our mind. Most of the people who would prefer MA will either be choosing teaching or resource. This net or set has become a mandatory thing. So to attain the success, what are the success mantras? I wish this session would be an eye-opening one for all of you. And one more question which would be lingering in the mind of you all will be, how could they cover such a deep and topic within an hour? You're not going to cover, it's not like covering, we're just going to share our views, like what we have been going through and how was it possible. So it's impossible, the word itself says I'm possible. So there is a possibility of everything. I would like to tell you, the word which comes to our mind is Herculean task is the one which whenever somebody asks what about net and set, the thing which comes to our mind is Herculean task. Herculean is a person who is capable of doing anything impossible. He's actually a hard worker, basically. So we all, I would say, like we all become a Hercules in the by the sense you all do smart work and achieve this. So that we don't end as myth of Sisyphus. Myth of Sisyphus. I hope all the students would be aware of. To give a small intro, rolling a small ball to a slope, and it would do the same thing again and again. So let it not be like that. So that we would know the tips, tricks, where we have to focus on, what's the challenge behind when we begin up our net or set, and all this will be covered here. The first basic and major challenge which the students face here is we always look up at literature in analytical and interpretative way. So whatever text you take it, we just try to go into the topic and try to analyze it level by level by applying theories, depending upon the perception. A lot of things are there. But to focus onto net or set code, we actually have to read upon few factual details, which seems to be difficult for few students, but our passion will really drive us and it will actually make us very easy. That's my opinion. So let's all do hard work, not hard work, but smart work. Let's all become Hercules and make something. There should not be anything which is impossible. Of course, there are so many who are doing it, so it is possible. I just wanted to begin the session with giving that confidence. Next slide.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the overview of the exam. So exam is happening twice, once in one June, the other in the December, and all of us know the mode is online. That actually makes students very nervous. What's going to be online? Of course, this session is also conducted online, and everything has changed. By now, I believe students would have got the view that. Everything is possible online. But the one thing I would tell you, the one main advantage of paying online is that you can switch between paper 1 and paper 2. That is actually not time consuming, which means you can switch over. Earlier, the paper pattern was different, like you would be given some time for paper 1 and separately for paper 2, two different question papers, wherein you would end up completing paper 2 very easily. And when you go for paper 1, for doing some logical reasoning and few topics, it really takes time. So now it is not the case, and that it seems to be a good advantage. So you can switch, and any question you can choose, and above all, you can actually change your answer at any time. In case of OMRs, you have no option to change. Maybe you can actually change and keep it. So that also seems to be a boon. One more thing is that there is no negative marking. As seen in competitive exams, there are a lot of negative marking. We can actually conquer more. So when you take the question pattern is MCQs, the MCQs is not going to be the same. All the things are going to be like 4 options or something like that. It's going to be like reason and assertion, comprehension of the code, comparison between I could say net is little vast comparatively. Net is national level, and of course.
Nazim, sorry to interrupt. I think you're not audible. I think there's some bandwidth issue.
Hello. Am
Yeah.
I audible?
Yes, you're audible, but then you're just having some glitches in between. Like the flow is not.
Were you able to hear what I was saying so long?
Yes, we could.
I don't know. Something dying in the background. Not from my end, actually.
Yeah, now it's fine. Nazim. Please continue.
Yeah. So now, next slide.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine now.
Yeah.
Lot of disturbance. We are not able to hear Naseem.
Ma'am, it's not from my end, ma'am. Someone else.
I think that from the host side, you can mute everyone. Say mute all so that. Hello?
Preeti ma'am, can you mute everybody, ma'am? It's not from my end. I could hear some noises in the background. It's not
Yes. I have muted all except the co-hosts, but looks
Yeah.
like I will have to mute the co-hosts also for the time being. I'm going to mute everybody
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
except Sangeeta and Naseem.
Okay.
Yeah, continue.
Yeah. So going to paper 1, I would like to tell you that we have to give equal importance to paper 1 because everybody feels like paper 2 is our cup of tea, and we should actually give equal importance to paper 1 as well. It's actually not paper 1, concentrate on paper 1. It actually takes practice, and when you practice more, actually, when you prepare more, you can actually boost your marks, and it will end up you aiming for JRF as well. So paper 2 is somewhere or the other we would study it in and courses. So it is easy. But when we go for paper 2 is comparatively easy for any student. So paper 1 should be given equal importance. Next slide.
Yes, we move to the next slide, Naseem.
Yeah. So the first topic is it general? Is it the general paper 1 topic, Sangeeta?
Yeah, it's teaching aptitude.
Yeah, teaching aptitude. So teaching aptitude, for that matter, there are a lot of areas to be concentrated, and I would like to touch upon few topics which is to be concentrated, like effective teaching. Every time question keeps coming on effective teaching, I don't limit yourself to concentrate only on this. I touch upon few which could be covered in our time limitation. And effective teaching in the sense going from simple to complex, abstract to concrete, so deductive method, inductive methods, all these will be covered in effective teaching. And also about the SWAYAM. SWAYAM is actually a short form, abbreviation. It is actually online course. It's for those who is it is not possible. So SWAYAM makes it possible for everybody to learn. Those who are unable to approach schools or anything, everyone could actually make use of SWAYAM. And SWAYAM Prabha is nothing but the telecasting of these SWAYAM programs through DTH. So these are MOOCs. MOOCs is nothing but active open online course which is initiated by MHRD, Ministry of Human Resource Department. So this are the new topics which has been added in latest syllabus. So if you would concentrate on that, it will boost your marks, because since it's new, every time the question keeps coming on it, and I felt it would be good if you know what it is. And also ICT, information communication technology, is making us possible for this session itself. And next slide.
Yeah.
So going into the research aptitude in general, research can be classified as quantitative, qualitative, action research. There are a lot of kinds. What we literature students do is nothing but qualitative research, that is analysis part. And when you go for quantitative research, you will have to sample. You have to take across a population. You have to take a set of population, restrict yourself, and sampling are been done in a lot of cluster sampling, probability sampling, stratified sampling. So a lot of sampling techniques are there. So what are the different sampling techniques, and what are the errors which occur in that? All that could be covered in research aptitude. Next slide.
Logical reason.
Yeah. So logical reasoning. In logical reasoning, the one which makes I think little tougher, or I could say, is the Sanskrit word Indian logic, which has been newly introduced. So I would like to touch upon a little so that you get a brief idea of what it is. So pramana, anumana. So a lot of terms are there. I would like to explain one term, anumana. Anumana, anu. It's a Sanskrit word where anu means after and mana means knowledge. So anumanam, what you call in Tamil. So what happens after your knowledge? What is your inference? When you hear something, how do you perceive it? Okay, how do you take it? All this comes under anumana. And under anumana, you have, I would like to explain two more terms. One is sesavat and puravarat. Sesavat is nothing but understanding unperceived cause from perceived effect. For example, I could tell you is the mud is wet. How do we understand that? Mud is wet because of rain. So you could relate it to sesavat. And puravarat is nothing but understand perceived, unperceived effect from perceived cause. So it's like by seeing clouds, we could think, okay, it's going to rain. So you could relate it that way. So this kind of inference I'm giving you will be given to you in the examination. So you could arrive at a solution of it.
Next slide. Information and communication technology.
Information and communication technology, it is actually making everything possible today. I believe I could again and again tell you this online platform has made it to connect in the pandemic situation. So under the topic, you will have like a IoT, Internet of Things, and you will also have the extension file format like .doc is meant for Word document, .xls is meant for Excel, and what are the abbreviation of JPEG, TIFF, GIF, which are the image formats. So you must be able to differentiate among the different formats. So that areas to be touched.
Higher education system.
Higher education system, we are going higher and higher. You have a lot to study. Education is not limited today. It is so diverse. You can touch upon anything today. So how the universities evolve and what are the initiatives taken by MHRD and some questions related to UGC. What is InflibNet and Shod Ganga? I could tell you these are nothing but wherein you reservoir of pieces and also the you get all sorts of information through this. So the reservoir of sources, all these topics, questions will be covered.
Paper 2.
Yeah. So in case of paper 2, you can find the list that is from prose, poetry, etc. It keeps going. I will touch upon that next slide. I would like to.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Excuse me.
Yes,
please keep track of the time, please. Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Okay. So there are two questions which has been shared in this screen. Both the questions, like in the first question, who is related to Epictetus, you all will be aware of Bertolt Brecht. But only with that we cannot arrive at the solution. So if we know that Bertolt Brecht is a friend of Arnold Ronen, who is an Austrian playwright, we could arrive at the solution. So these things will be followed. And in case of the other question, we all know that match the following. We cannot arrive at the one answer which is familiar will have many options. So choose smarter so that you can arrive at the solution.
Yeah, right? Modules.
Yeah, modules. Under modules, you actually have different literature from starting from British, American, it goes on. So all these are the different modules which you could make a note of and concentrate on. So it actually, I already told you it's a wide topic. It's a vast one. But in case of world literature, you could actually touch upon the top 5 authors or authors which has been repeatedly asked. All that would help you. Next.
Post-colonial literature.
yeah, post-colonial literature, I could tell you, is the one which when people started writing after colonialism, what happened and what was the mindset of people and all that. So there are a lot of examples. We could feel the pain of the writer in post-colonial works. So that would actually help.
Yeah. European.
Yeah. What's that?
European literature.
Yeah, European literature, as I told you, you can classify European literature as Greek, Roman, Italian, Russian, German, different countries. So each has got its own history. You can touch upon it so that you will understand the literature. Whatever topic you are touching upon, it's equally important to know the background of it, the history, so that you will know what they are trying to say, and it becomes easy for you to learn it. So when you learn with passion, everything is easy. That's what I could tell you. Yes, next slide.
Yeah. The other topics.
Yeah, other
The
topics, other important topics to be covered are literary theory and criticism. Cultural topics is quite a new topic. I hope we have a session and it will be it will give you a lot of information about it. And when you're reading Indian literature, you should actually start reading like how English evolved in India, what was the role and all that. And also language and pedagogy, ELT methodologies are other topics which is considered apart from all whatever you have seen.
Ages.
Ages. When we talk about ages, it starts from Anglo-Saxon, which is otherwise called as Old English. So how German tribes settled in England, and after that, what happened in Anglo-Norman, where we have a lot of French dialect in English just because of the Anglo-Norman who invaded, and in this period it will be called as Old English. So these are a smaller part, and you can expect only a few questions from this. These are not considered as before. And in case of Age of Chaucer, you have three important events like Black Death, 100 Years' War, Peasants' Revolt, and all this. So what made the changes? It's always important for you to know the age, whatever is there, so that it is easy for you to understand what the author says and all that. So the background of age and author and this mentality is equally important when studying for later set, so that the works becomes easy. You can easily connect to the works. And in case of Age of Chaucer, actually Canterbury scale becomes very important, and questions keep coming. Such a beautiful one, the classic work which everyone would enjoy. I believe you have already have an idea about it. So when we concentrate more on that, it will be good. Next.
Okay, Nazim, since we're running short of time, can I just take over?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yes. Good morning or good morning to everybody here. So I'll just continue from where Nazim stopped. So Nazim gave an overview of all the important topics that have to be covered. Like when you are starting your preparation for NET, it's you cannot afford to miss out on these topics. Like, of course, NET preparation is a vast preparation, and these carry more weightage. So she has covered all those points. So I will just straight away go into the way when you're starting to prepare for your NET exam, what are the tips that could help you to start your prep? Because we are always taken aback on how vast the syllabus is. Of course, we have to be a good scholar, we have to read everything. But in the exam perspective, what are the tips that you could carry during your prep that will make your NET preparation journey more interesting, and also to ease out that feeling of studying something very vast? So I'm just going to give you a few tips to start your NET prep. Since you're all freshers, you're just joined your MA, and you would have had a preview of the important authors and ages. So you're just going to broaden your view towards literature. So I'll just give you the tips to start your prep for your NET. So some of the tips are, first things first, you have to focus. Okay, for any exam preparation needs a lot of focus. Okay, so you have to narrow down, and when you are covering a topic, you should just make sure you cover the entire you don't miss out on the important factors, and also the background, the history. You have to focus meaning you have to focus on your preparation as well as the content. Okay, so you have to have a primary focus towards your exam, so that is first. So if you are going by chronology, it's always better to go by the chronology, because we get to know the evolution of each age when you go by chronology. Of course, some of them prepare according to the weightage, like few topics, few authors, few important writers are being repeated in every question paper, I mean in all the exams, net exams. So they used to go that way. But as literature students and people who are learning literature passionately, it's better we go in a chronology, because we also get to know the evolution of the age, the culture, the society, the transition in the literature, and along with that we are also going to learn the facts. Okay, well, as Nazim mentioned, as literature students we tend to miss out on certain facts, and that's why it becomes a little difficult to crack the exam. We are more analytical, we are more critical, we straight away jump into the analysis, and we are taught not to write summaries and biographies. So we tend to miss out on certain facts that end up as a question in the net exam. So we need to focus on the details of it. So when you're going to do your net prep, the in-depth study matters. So focus as in it gets deeper and deeper as you start your prep. The deeper we go, the better our preparation is and the wider our knowledge gets. So first things you have to focus, and then you've got to give importance to certain keywords. Like I've just given the example of lang and parole here. So you have these literary terms and terminologies and key statements and words given by popular theorists or important writers. So you have to focus on those key words and terms. So I've just given the example of lang and parole from linguistics. So sometimes we tend to have direct questions. We always anticipate that questions coming in the net exam might be challenging. It will always be challenging. We won't get direct answers. It's not that. Um, I think some percent of questions do have direct answers, like you can directly answer. So that's one such example where they will just give the definition of lang or parole and give you options and ask you what it is. So sometimes we just have to get it straight instead of complicating, and instead of anticipating that the question is going to be confusing or challenging, or it is only going to be difficult. We tend to miss out on the simple things. So we have to give importance to that as well, and the key words in theories or the literary terms you're studying. So keywords are very important. And then the important writers or thinkers or authors. So how do you narrow down, how do you say this writer is important or this work is important? Now that means a little bit of brushing up of the old question papers, or just an understanding of the history in the net exam. Like maybe you can consider the last 4 years. So we have some repeated questions in the question paper, and also some important authors. Now your syllabus is going to be of great help in this for this, because our syllabus it covers the important authors. Okay, we get the list of important authors. That it's just that we limit the works of the authors. Now our work is to find out the other works of the authors which are not prescribed in our text. So we get a broad view of the important authors which are covered in the syllabus, be it your UG or your PG syllabus, and then we have to go in depth to know about the other works. Some familiar works will be prescribed in the syllabus. Unfamiliar works, we'll have to go and research on it. So the key thinkers or the key authors, for example, take Jacques Derrida or Paul de Man, Roland Barthes. Okay, so they are very famous critics. Okay, when it comes to literary criticism. So I've just given 3 examples. Like you have more writers and authors where you can term them as important writers, and when you look back into the history of the exam, you will keep finding questions about them. Okay, their works, their criticisms, their critics, the quotes, it keeps repeating. So we need to go back to that history also. So since I have mentioned about question papers, many of them follow the strategy of following the question papers. Like if you work out question papers, it will help you, or it will that's they find that as a strategy to prepare for the net exam. Of course it is, but just by it's not the school level exam or any other, some government competitive exams do follow that pattern where questions keep repeating. And even our in semester exams, we used to look back our previous year question papers, we used to ask our seniors for question papers. One or two questions might be repeated, but in the net perspective, on the net point of view, referring to question papers should kind of change. Okay, you can refer to question papers, but you cannot just remember or mug, or if not mug as such, like you can't just read the question, read the options and say I know this. You have to get into the details of it, because one question is might be carrying one work or two critiques, and the options might be four authors. So when you are so you get into the details of it. Like say suppose you have a question in about cultural studies, and you have four theorists in the option: Richard Hogarth, Stuart Hall, Raymond Williams. So the answer might be one of these options, but you have to read about the other authors too, other writers too, or the other critics too. In that way, your question paper reference is going to help you, because one question, in the question itself you might have a reference to an author, his work, or a quote, or a criticism. So you get into the details of it. Once you get into the details of it, you get a broader view or in-depth analysis of that. Say for the example I gave itself. So when you're going to cover all those authors who related to culture studies, you are going to cover a minor part of cultural studies itself, because they are important writers in that particular subject. Okay, so in that way we can narrow down to key thinkers and authors. In that way you can, this is how you can refer to the old question papers, which might be helpful for your net preparation. And it's a personal experience also. So once I started looking at question papers, I started to know that certain questions where authors and questions were getting repeated, just that in different areas. Maybe in one paper it was limited to the work, and in another paper it was about a criticism, and then in another paper a work which is not written by that particular author. So it kept changing, the pattern, the question kept changing, but the author was being repeated. Okay, for like Nazim said, say Chaucer or Shakespeare. Every question paper has a question from T.S. Eliot, Chaucer, Shakespeare. If Indian writers like Vijay Tendulkar, Silence in the Court in the Session, we are very familiar with that drama. So this is how we can know or narrow down. Now, narrowing down is quite a tedious task, because we have a vast syllabus and we have a number of authors and writers, Indian, Western, world literature, so on. So we have to get a point where we could narrow down and broaden our study in that particular subject or about the author. So in that case, this will be helpful. Like this is how this might help. This will be a better way when you're referring to question papers. You don't just go by studying or just remembering the answer. So you get into the details of what is given in the question, the choices, because one question and four choices is going to cover about a work or an author in detail. In that way you will be able to narrow down. In that way you will be able to find these repeated questions and authors who are being about the authors who are being repeated in all the exams. So this is how you can have your approach towards question papers, because there are a lot of bazaar guides which have question papers with answers and explanation right from 2010, 2008, and the pattern has slightly changed. I mean, the weightage has slightly changed. Like, we don't have much questions from Anglo-Saxon, Anglo-Normal nowadays. And out of personal experience, like I just cleared my net in 2020. So I have had experience writing my net exam right from 2016. So I personally have made this observation towards the question paper pattern. So that's how you can narrow down. And then next point, to read and relate. To read and relate. Now, definitely as literature students, we can always make comparisons and relations, like Professor Ramakrishnan sir just gave beautiful comparative studies, and how he was able to compare Bali and our other English writers. So it's always better we read and relate it to either our life or with another literary work, like say Tradition and Individual Talent by T.S. Eliot, and how you can apply the impersonality theory to ourselves, our lives, where we have to extricate ourselves and stand at a point and then give us as a whole, and how we are all like in Wasteland. All the works, it's like a collage. Wasteland is a big poem, big work, and it's just like a collage. And then how our life is also that way, and how we are also into bits and pieces, and we have to really come together and make ourselves as a whole. So we should always relate. Literature is life. That's what they say. When it comes to the exam point of view, we always tend to forget that literary passion we have, or sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. We are not able to really balance that out. We should never forget that passion we have towards literature. It kind of gets disintegrates when we learn it or study in a very factual manner. So let's not extricate ourselves from the literariness from ourselves, and be in that mood and read it like how we read a novel. Of course, when it comes to practice, you need to go factually, and you need to know biographical details. But let's just consider it as a novel or a work, like how you read a fiction or a novel. Let's just imagine the work to be a novel or a fiction, so that it makes you get involved, and it's more interesting, and it is not completely factual. And let's not just look at it in a very mechanical way. So we can always read and relate with authors, relate with characters. So when you're preparing for your net, you will have to cover certain novels and texts, and the prologues, the epilogues. We get questions from the prologues, the epilogues, and the minor characters and the comic characters. So we can always relate, and we can make a comparative study, and between the clowns in Shakespeare's play and the comedians in the other plays. And so we can always make a comparison. So whatever you read, always relate it with yourself. We can either relate it to ourselves, and we can also relate and compare to other literary works as well. So let's not dissolve the literariness when we are preparing for the net, even though we need to give importance to factual details and dates and chronology. And then next point, you have to keep pace with the contemporary works. And I have to keep repeating about cultural studies, because in the net perspective, we have wide range of questions covering this particular subject, that's cultural studies. It's a very new genre, and we have our sources are just getting widened. It's slowly widening. So for now, the authors, the critics are quite limited. So when we are extensively covering the cultural studies section, I'm sure we'll be able to crack or get the answers right in the net perspective, because we are yet to explore. We are still exploring, and so far the familiar authors are quite limited. And when we compare to British literature and cultural studies, of course, cultural studies, it's just blooming and budding, and the authors and critics are limited, and you can remember. It's easy for us to remember as well. So because talking about memory, as again referring to Professor Ramakrishnan sir, he was talking about memory and how slowly our memory is dissolving. That can be because of the gadgets, or we have other modes to remember. That for me personally, this memory was a problem. I had issues really remembering dates and order and authors and works. So of course it is not easy to remember everything, but there are few tips to remember and recall and store things in your subconscious memory. Few things, it stays in your subconscious memory. That can be done in the mode of prep where you take notes. Some of us, maybe if you're listening to audio lectures or any other sources other than your book sources, if you're listening to any lectures, we just tend to keep listening to it, but we kind of we may not take notes. It's always better we take notes, even though it's a PPT, or be it a book or any audio lecture. It's always better we take our own notes. I would personally recommend that we make our own notes. It's okay to share. It's okay to share and study, but some of us tend to borrow the notes from somebody else, and we sit and we try to study, which may not be really helpful. We will not have a personal satisfaction. So it is always better to do, it's okay to do group study, it's okay to combine and study, but then when you make your notes, it's better you make your own it's better we put our own effort and make our own notes. In that way we will feel more accomplished, and we will feel more confident, and when we look back, you really feel that you have done an extensive study, and that notes will definitely help you in a better way. It might not really help, it might not be helpful for somebody else, but for you, as a person who's preparing as a reader, you will feel very confident and very accomplished, and your notes will always help you. Okay, so so we just stopped where, yeah, talking about contemporary work. So always keep track of what's new, because every time we get a question on the updated subject or genre in literature. So one such example was cultural studies. And then keep note, I just mentioned it, on how you have to keep taking notes and how do you refer to these notes every day. So now when you start preparing for net, just we should not give a break. Okay, we should try and not give a break in between. For me, the lockdown helped. The lockdown, I was at home and I had a lot of time, so I did not give a break. Earlier I did. I have to make a confession, I did not do a meticulous preparation all these years, and that's why the delay. And this lockdown really helped me to keep track. Like every day I was able to spend 2 to 3 hours for my preparation, and I kept track. That coherence matters. So even every day you start your prep, maybe you can write 10 points. Okay, you can start off, since you're all freshers, you're just starting, you can start with 10 points about a particular topic and cover it up and note the key words in the 10 points, and you ensure that you're confident about the 10 points, and then the next day you can take another 10 points, but then you have to revise. Okay, if you keep piling up without revising, ultimately again we will be taken aback that there is so much to cover, there's so much to remember, there's so much to memorize. Okay, so every day you add 10 points, or you have to keep adding on to your notes and preparation. You have to revise what you have done before, and then you have to continue. So without revising, if you continue, again it will look like a big piled up work, which is going to make you feel low, or it might kind of affect us psychologically, that there's so much more. So that's the first fear about net itself. Like there's so much to cover, where to start, where to end, how am I going to keep track? So that is the psychological fear everybody has when we are preparing for net, and when you're preparing on your own without any external help. So every day keep writing, take your own notes, and keep revising, keep going back. And when you're taking notes, maybe you can use, this is just a very casual tip, like if you're using pens, like some of us type it out. If you're using a notebook and if you're writing your notes, maybe you can use different colored pens for the age, for the author, for the dates. Okay, so it kind of registers as a photographic memory. When you go back and you read, you just skim through the notes. So this is for people who write notes. So when you just skim through the notes, the colors will help you remember, or it just worked with me. So those who are okay with it, those who are okay with using colored pens, and if it is that way you want to do your prep, it will really help you, because there are a lot of things you have to remember and relate and study, be it the works and authors. So in this case, this will help you. This is a very minor tip, very small tip. You can just try. It just worked for me and some of my friends. They gave me the suggestion, so I'm just passing it on to you. And then self-evaluation. So self-evaluation or testing. We always tend to, again, as literature students, and again I keep referring to Professor Ramakrishnan sir. He said like, we keep analyzing, like the memory part kind of dissolves when in the second year of college we don't really sit and memorize. First year of college, that impact of school education and memorizing poems and Tamil Ilakkiyam adala memorize பண்றது, it kind of that stays, but then eventually it just dissolves. Like we tend to we always think like, okay, we can manage. If we know the storyline, we can manage. We can write an essay. We can manage with the question. So that's how the transition of a literature student happens. So in that case, the memory, of course, it kind of slows down. So in order to test how much you remember, do you really remember, we cannot keep studying like how we study for our end semester exam. You cannot manage your net exam that way. So you have self-evaluation is very important. So you have again, you can go back to your question papers, and also I have another site where you can access some MCQs. I'll be giving the link in the next slide. So in that case, you can self-evaluation matters, because when you're doing your prep all by yourself, it's completely you and the work. Okay, so it's your personal satisfaction when you get the questions right. You feel complete, you feel satisfied, you feel confident that you have covered this extensively. So self-evaluation really helps with the prep, and it also boosts your confidence, and it helps you go forward with the prep, and you feel confident that about proceeding with your preparation. So self-evaluation, now and then, maybe when you finish a particular age, or if you even finish a particular author, try and attempt questions, try and attend answering questions. Maybe you can refer to the question papers, look for questions based on that age or author, and then you can try answering the question to really know if you have covered the entire part of the subject. Because sometimes we really don't know where to start and where to end, and we always have this doubt whether we have covered everything. So in this case, it will help you. Like if you don't know the answer, of course it means that you need to do more preparation. Okay, so self-evaluation is very important. Don't keep it to the last. Just ensure you do that testing process right after you complete a particular age or a work. Okay, in that case, you can again cover that section and then move on to the next section. And then study group. As I said, our subject is, I mean, in the net perspective, all subjects are very vast. So it will be good if you have a study group. But some of us will prefer doing self-study. It's okay to work on your own. But a study group kind of eases out. But then the choice of people matters. Okay, what kind of people you involve in your study group matters. Just make sure everybody has the same pace and have the same have the same motivation and goal towards reaching the net exam. I did have a study group. We used to discuss in the weekends. but most of the time it was self study. But I don't deny that that group study did help a lot, because you have another friend of yours who is going to share what you missed out on, and when it comes from your peers, it has a better impact, or it's just a friendly way of communicating. So it's more psychological also, and you feel connected, and you can also test yourself on how much you've covered. There's a lot of sharing happening in a study group. It's just that that group should not deviate from the focus. Okay, so if you're focused towards them, just make sure that particular hour you are spending together is come out and out only for the net preparation, and then you can have your. Sometimes we tend to get deviated, right? We tend to talk other stuff. So just make sure everybody, maybe a group of 5, okay, maybe not more than that, maybe a group of 5 who are really meticulously preparing, and stick to your schedules. If you're doing group prep, like you can divide authors, divide works or genre. This is going to really burden, lessen the burden, so if you have a study group, it's a good thing. But if you are a person who wants to do all the prep by yourself also, it's fine. This is just an option. So if you're having a study group, how you execute is, maybe for a week you can work, or you can divide authors or subjects or genres, and then read that extensively, and then you discuss maybe end of the week, or weekly twice you can have a discussion, and one day you can have a test, like among yourselves you can have a test, and then you can evaluate that, and you can share your ideas and corrections. So it's just peer group study. Just go for it if you're really into it, or else self study is the best. And then practice makes perfect, cliche. So without practice, it's impossible. And I would like to give my own personal experience as well. I really practiced for this exam, which I didn't do previously. I just kept reading, I just kept taking notes, I reread, and I kept listening. But then I did not practice much, especially for the first paper. Without practice, it's difficult. Now the exam is, it's just 3 hours. Earlier it was segregated, 1.5 hours or 1 hour for first paper, and then the rest of the time for second paper. Now it's the 3 hours given. The 3 hours, it's hours. We can take 1.5 hours for first paper, and then 2 hours for our co-paper. We can divide it, but then it's better we finish the first paper in an hour. However well versed or however learned you are in our second paper, the co-paper, it's always better we wrap up our first paper in 1 hour. So if you have to wrap up first paper in 1 hour without practice, it's impossible. Okay, and we always have this fear towards math and data interpretation and logical reasoning when it comes to first paper. It's difficult only until you don't go into it. Once you get into it, it is very simple. It is that simple that you will regret that you were worried and feared this. Okay, so if you are having an aversion towards math and data interpretation like me, just don't have that. Just don't be worried about it. Once you start working out, that will be the easiest way for you to score. Like Nazim said, if we perform well and if we score better marks in the first paper, it will help us really inch closer towards reaching net up with the JRF. So please focus on first paper, and without practice, first paper is it will be better if you keep practicing first paper. So a second paper, maybe you can keep reading, you can keep listening, but when it comes to first paper, it's more of memory, it's more of knowing facts, it's more of practicing. With practice, your speed gets better. So in the first paper perspective, practice is a must, and of course for second paper as well, I have already mentioned. So just don't fear about the math and the data interpretation and other science and ICT part in the first paper, because they go for basic details. This fear, will not let us really go into it, that we end up missing out on the marks. So always just go for it. Okay, don't hesitate, just go for it. and all the questions are quite simple. They are not as complicated as how our core paper is. So just go for it and keep practicing. Practice only will help you score better in your first paper. So these are the tips as you start your net preparation as freshers. So next is a list of books that I've projected it on the screen. So you can just make a note of it, or we'll share the PPT to you. So these are the list of books that are very helpful in the net perspective, like David Carter's Literary Theory, Key Terms in Literary Theory by Mary Clegg, and George Jules, The Study of Language. I think you would have got introduced to that book in your UG. So Emma Abrams and Jeffrey Gall's A Glossary of Literary Terms. Okay, so these are some important books that you could refer. If you read these books extensively, definitely it will help you score better marks in your net exam. And these are some primary sources that as literature students, not just in the net perspective, as literature people and students, it's better we get to read these books in our course, like as you do your MA program. You can, as literature people, we should be familiar with these books, like it's inevitable. And then last, towards the end, I have given a small link that is to that will help with your self evaluation. Like you will have a lot of MCQs from English literature, so you can use that platform to test yourself in the net point of view. And then here, this is another app. The image which I have projected there, that's how the thumbnail would be. That's an app where you get the question papers. Of course, you can visit the NTA website as well to access old question papers. But then since we are all phone bound, and maybe if you're traveling or if you're taking a train or a bus or anywhere in between, you definitely will be having your phone. So when it is an app, it's easier to access. So this app compiles, I think, question papers from 2009 itself, 2009 net, with the answers. I think explanation is also there. You have a small explanation also for the answer. So if you're practicing on the go, you don't want to waste time, you want to practice some question papers, you can access this app. You can download it from Google Play Store. So that is the it kind of makes it easy for you. Instead of going for the guides, sometimes the answers are wrong, like very few, like not all the answers are wrong, but then few answers are wrong in the guides where they have the compilation of all the question papers. So this app is quite reliable, and the answers are also correct, and with a small explanation as well. So you can access that app. So I hope you noted down the books and resources. So that is it. So if, you have to have a plan and a preparation, and then you have to go for your exam. So if you're starting your net prep, you have to really sit and plan it out first, be it the works, the genres, the time. You have to really plan that, and then your preparation gets better when you follow this. When you plan, prepare, and then go for the exam, the process is very clean. And then I did this. I finally did this, and I was able to get through. I was lacking in all of this, that I was not able to get through it initially. So I did follow this pattern, and I was fortunate enough to clear this attempt. So it's just a personal experience. So you have to plan, you have to prepare, and then you perform. And that's it. Yes. Thank you so much. Okay, I would like to thank our beloved HOD and all the professors in the department for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences and the tips towards clearing the net exam. And thank you to all the professors here and resource persons, and Shivaraman sir and Ramakrishnan sir. Thank you so much. I'm really humbled to have made this presentation amidst your presence, sir. Thank you so much. Hope I have not taken too much time.
Thank you, and welcome, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sangeeta.
Do we have two more people?
I think Sumati will hand it over to you now, sir.
Sir, I have been beautifully explaining languages. I hope would be very useful to students. I request Dr. Sivaraman sir.
Yes.
Strategies explained by or used further discussion.
There's some noise. I'm not able to hear you, madam. Yes.
Not from my.
Yes.
Sangeeta.
So much noise, I think.
Sir, now I request you to do a review about the yardsticks and strategies used by.
Okay, thank you.
Explained by Professor.
I hope I'm audible to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So, my appreciations, my congratulations to both Sangeeta and Nasima for their wonderful presentation. In fact, they have shared their experience.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So, we don't have that much time at our disposal. So I'll just, one minute.
Yes, sir, you can take time, sir.
Yeah,
you can take your time.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Okay. I'll just take about 2-3 minutes, of course, to sum up what these people have said and also to come out with my own observations. Number one.
Sir, take your time. Take your time.
No problem. So, number one, both these candidates who have recently cleared NET have shared their experience with you. And they have also come out with their own strategies, which you could use actually to prepare for the NET examination. Your group study and then practice and all those things. But I have one observation. In fact, I cleared this NET examination 22 years ago. That was in the year 1997-98. That was the time when we had the descriptive type. We had 3 papers. So the NET examination, I tell you, whether you like it or not, that shows the failure of our BA and MA program. Please do not mistaking me for being pessimistic about our own program, but this is one clear observation that I would like to make, and we the teachers of course are equally responsible for that failure. Right? So right from the BA program, we have the ancillary subjects. I'm talking merely about the paper 2. So when you take, I proceed from paper 2 to paper 1. Okay. So when we take paper 2, which has entire literature as its syllabus, we have to start from BA first year, where almost all the colleges across India have social history of England, history of English literature, literary forms as ancillary subjects, ancillary papers. So how seriously we as teachers, of course, teach it to students, and how seriously you students, of course, take it up seriously right from your first BA is a big question. Number one. So all these standard texts, whether it be Edward Albert to begin with, the history of English literature, or David Page's, it used to be in 4 volumes in my days, and now they say it has come out in 2 volumes. And then literary forms, Cutton's literary forms, or M.H. Abraham's glossary of literary terms, or you have so many world dictionary of world literary terms by Joseph Shipley. All these authors, how seriously do we take these books, which are actually prescribed for us at the UG level? That's number one. Number two, your own examination pattern. We have sometimes, because when we were in Christian college, 30 years, 40 years, 35 years ago, we had the objective type questions even in social history and history of English literature. So that's why we need to take our own subject seriously. So the PG students have joined today. Please go through the syllabus, and I'm very sure you'll have to start all over again, because even after completing MA, MPhil, we tell the students to read the history of English literature because they don't read it when they are in the first year. So please have we need to take our course seriously. Leave alone these strategies. These strategies are just a means, that's all. But our course is an end in itself. The course that is designed for us, both at the UG level and at the PG level, much more importantly, right? That is an end in itself. So how seriously we do our course, right? And how seriously we attend each and every class, right? We simply take it as another examination. And now the pandemic situation has made the entire scenario worse. I'm talking about the practical aspect here. Nobody takes online classes. Nobody, in fact, takes the online exam seriously. Right. So, what do you read? What do you read for? So that's why I tell people, take your course seriously, and these strategies will take care of themselves. So when you read a particular book, when you read history of English literature, even for your own BA, or when you read a theory paper for your MA, right? You have to take note of these things. And why do you have to restrict it to the net examination preparation? Note taking or note making is a must for each and every class of ours at the postgraduate level. And how many of us take it seriously? And then the assignment. When we do our assignment, how serious are we about writing the assignments? We often write. I'm not talking merely about one college. This is the case with almost all colleges across India. Higher education has become a mere fun, in the sense we have made mockery of the whole education system, higher education system. Yeah. And what do? We simply copy something from the internet and submit it as assignment. So our assignment is very often for the sake of submission. How seriously do we take our assignment? And then the last point, this net examination is no guarantee, in fact, to research quality in research. Unfortunately, our country is a hugely populated country. And when someone has to write the aptitude test, of course, it is often based on MCQ, which goes well for science subjects. But for languages and for humanities, without descriptive type this, I don't think you can do any justice. So people merely get the factual details, sometimes by hook or crook. They get it more often. So examination is always a game of chance, as Winston Churchill would always put it. So this net examination has also been reduced to a mere game of chance. So please do not. So the one thing that I can give you as a chairperson or as a faculty member, the one advice that I give you is to take your course seriously and not bother about these strategies that much. Each and every class you attend, that's very important. Each and every assignment you submit, has to be taken seriously. And the last one, which will also connect us with the next session, the new visitors. So people who clear JRF, people who clear NET are not, this is the current scenario. I'm talking about 99% of the NET candidates. They are not able to write even a sentence. Why? So that's the point. That's because right from our, we have not done our basics. Now we are in the age of cricket. Cricket yesterday just got over. People do watch T20 matches. People do watch maximum one-day matches. But nobody watches test match. Nobody watches test match. I am an always ardent fan of test cricket. Yesterday, the test cricket, the third test ended. India successfully drew the match. We always want sensation. We always want scores, score between quotations here. Right. So the very act of defending even a ball is very important in the game of cricket. And anybody who succeeds, who is able to be successful in test cricket, of course, can master any other format in cricket. Same is the case here. When you do your literature course, it is like playing a test match. It is like you become thorough with each and every detail if you take it up seriously. And all the other NET or any competitive examination based on literature will become a cakewalk. The only thing that you need to adjust is the time, as Sangeeta said. We are in that particular system, and people often go by the time limit. And here it is only objective type questions. And one advice I tell you, people, now the market is flooded with guides for the NET examination, and people simply rush to get all those guides. I tell you, my dear students, never go in for these guides. They will never help you. Even a couple of days ago, I had been to the bookstore to purchase books for our department library. The bookstall, the man who is in charge of the bookstall said, "Sir, why don't you get books for NET and SLET examination? It will be useful to your students." I said, "You don't want it." He said, "Let's go in for some the standard texts. If we have to read history of English literature, no, never go through objective approach to English literature. There's no need for that. Go in for even George Sampson's concise Cambridge History of English Literature, which came out about 45 years ago. In fact, those days there was no guide for this NET and SLET examination. So that's why if your aim is to qualify yourself for the post of assistant professor, of course you have to clear NET, but never go in search of all these study materials for the NET. Take your course seriously. That's why Preeti ma'am has arranged this orientation program for the MA students. And the new education policy, that's why I'm going to connect it with the next session. The new education policy, NEP 2019, has made it clear that they are going to do away with the MPhil program. In fact, they ought to have done that this year itself. They have just given one more year extension. So what does it mean? The PG is going to be, your PG, postgrad, the people who have just now joined first MA English Literature, please have it in mind. And the students, I think, who are in second year are also here. Some of my own old students from Presidency who have joined Queen Mary's, I'm able to see some of the names here. Right? So please have it in mind, your PG program is going to be a research program hereafter. So what does it mean? You need to take your assignment very seriously, your research methodology very seriously, and above all, the project that you do in the 4th semester of your PG program. How many of the students take up the project seriously? They simply try to go in search of the old projects. just as the net aspirants who go in search of the old question papers. See, it can only lead to duplication. This duplication is happening even at the PhD level, right? If someone tries to research on the theme of alienation in one author, they take up the same theme and do it in some other author's fiction. And that's how the whole research gets duplicated again and again. That's why the new education program, one thing, people often talk against the new education policy. But there is one positive aspect, of course, in the new education policy. They are going to make PG program a research program. So your MPhil will no longer be there. So you need to take your PG program, your internship program, everything has to be taken very seriously. And if you approach the entire program from the perspective of the examination, you will never succeed. So with these words, I think we can move on, right, to the next session. Just because I have talked all these things about the strategies, it does not mean that they will not be useful. They will be useful to you. There is no doubt, but they are only a means. They are not an end in itself. Your course is of paramount importance. Please take up your course very seriously. Right. So even if you take your British literature, look at your own syllabus, how it is framed. Right. Can you see the pattern in it? Can you integrate this net examination into your own course content? How well are you able to do in your own content, of course, is what matters. Thank you very much. I think we can move on to the next session.
Can I add something, sir?
Yeah, please, ma'am.
I do appreciate all that you have shared, sir. As you said, one need not go for the bazaar notes or emphasize that and old question papers. I just want to reiterate something that Sangeeta and Naseem said, make your own notes. So going back to my own preparation for NET, those days we never had these bazaar notes. I do remember preparing about 1,500 MCQ questions. I had a notebook, and as I read through David Deitch's, A.C. Bohr, and all these writers, and I made, and then from the History of English Literature textbook, I went to the original textbook. So suppose if it's Bernard Shaw's Joan of Arc, then you which is mentioned in the History of English Literature book, go to the actual text, then read that, make your notes of the names of the characters, important statements, opening lines, closing lines, significant dates of publication, or other significant dates, historically significant dates. And so as you go along this MA in these 2 years, keep a separate notebook for objective type questions. So as you read descriptive work, your book, your textbook, which is descriptive, something that is has potential as a objective question, make a note of that. For example, date of publication of the King James Bible, 1611. All right, year of the Black Plague, all these things. So keep making your notes, and 2 years of consistent preparation of your own material will stand you in good stead. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. That was it kind of really helped. It helps us as well, whatever you shared, and thank you for being there for our session and guiding us as well. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you
Yes,
so much.
yeah, thank you both, and thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable guidance. And hope our students will also take into account all your guidelines, sir. Thank you once again, sir. Now we move on to session 2. To travel on new vistas for research in English studies. This session focuses especially on gender studies, eco-criticism, and ELT. And again, it is a pleasure that Dr. Subramanian sir, Associate Professor, Presidency College, is chairing the session. Now we start the session. And, Dr. Vinita Francis, Assistant Professor of English, will focus on gender studies. Before this, I'd like to say that Mrs. Sumati, Assistant Professor of English, Department of English, will speak on criticism, eco-criticism, and English language teaching, ELT, is shown light by Professor Andrin Fernando. Now I request Professor Rita Francis of our department, who is a recipient of a gold medalist from Her Excellency Fatima Bibi for securing first rank with a distinction in UG degree. And she is also has passion in teaching, often results with 100%. And for this, Dr. Rita received an award when she worked in SRM University. She was a part member team with our head of the department, Dr. Maria Preeti Srinivasan ma'am, in drafting Rusa Plan Tamil Nadu, and she co-authored the text, like 2 books, that is, for engineering students. She contributed a chapter in the book World as in Your Stride by Tamil Nadu government, and for 2 workshops organized at a Tansky by our head of the department, Maria Preeti Madam. Dr. Nita Francis went as a resource person. Hence, now I request Dr. Mrs. Nita Francis to give her eloquent speech on gender studies.
Thank you so much, dear Sumati ma'am, for that nice introduction. I won't be sharing much as we are already running short of time. A very good morning to all of you, and a very warm welcome to our dear students who have taken up this PG program in Queen Mary's College. As our HOD rightly said, it's a privilege to study in this great institution, and I feel a great privilege to be working here in this esteemed institution. I think I reached this position in life only through hard work. So I advise the same for all of you. The topic of my topic that I'm going to talk about is on gender studies. Let me share the presentation. Yes, so the topic is gender studies. Before we move on to what is gender studies and all the theories associated with it, we should have a clear understanding of what is meant by the term gender. The term gender is often misconstrued and not properly understood by all. Often it is confused with sex. Sex and gender are interrelated but not interchangeable. Sex is biologically determined and socially reinforced by gender. And gender is the role that we play as members in the society. Now, where does the conflict arise? The conflict arises when a person may feel differently, but he or she is expected to conform to the codes given by or expected by society. This is where the conflict arises. Gender theory is broadly the concept that while a person may be biologically male or female, they have the right to identify themselves as male, female, both, or neither. So I put a quote by Chimamanda Ngozi here. The problem with gender is it prescribes how we should be rather than recognizing how we are. So the first step towards gender studies is having a clear idea of what is gender, to be aware of the different aspects of gender. Now, in most cultures, gender is considered as a binary with masculinity on one side and femininity on the other side. And these are considered as mutual opposites. But in certain cultures, it is also seen as 3 genders. That is how it should be seen. And it is more fluid and it is seen as a spectrum. I have a quote here by Emma Watson. It is time that we all see gender as a spectrum instead of 2 sets of opposing ideals. So a lot of disturbance. Can you kindly mute yourselves, students? Thank you. So who are the marginalized when we take the broad area of gender studies? Society generally ignores all those people who do not conform to this two-gender system as instituted by society. So when you oppose the binary, those people become marginalized. As society always encourages everyone to conform to gender as projected, as established in society. I request Ms. Connie to mute. Uh, there's a lot of traffic noise coming in. Yes, thank you. Yes, so we are expected to conform to the established codes. Uh, so when we look at gender as binary, this is the problem. And if somebody goes against these gender norms, we are also trained to reject these people. Often men are taught to be stronger and to exhibit confidence. They are taught instrumental qualities like confidence, to be more competitive. They are expected to be more rational. They are considered as the breadwinner of the family. On the other hand, women are taught expressive qualities like empathy, sensitivity, and they're expected to be more emotional, or they're considered to be more emotional, and they're always, expected to do a lot of domestic work, like cooking, cleaning, washing, and they're because of this sensitivity, and they're associated with nurturing qualities, they're expected to raise the family and the children. So these are all roles, the gender roles as expected by society. These are not biologically determined. These are gender roles as expected by society. So when we do an analysis of the interplay of race, class, gender, sexual orientation, and other identities, we see a lot, we get an idea of the multiple dimensions of disadvantage. Hence, we have studies in feminism, masculine studies, and queer studies. These are all social constructs. The gender roles expected are all social constructs. Now, the gender structural system, though it is supposed to have been established to have stable family units, it gives privilege and power to certain sections of the society, and whereas and the rest are in very disadvantaged positions. One example of this system is patriarchy. Now, what is patriarchy? Chris Whedon's definition of patriarchy, as published in the book Feminist Practice and Post-Structuralist Theory 1987, states the term patriarchal refers to power relations in which women's interests are subordinated to the interests of men. These power relations take on many forms, from the sexual division of labor and the social organization of procreation to the internalized norms of femininity by which we live. So this patriarchal system gives more power, generally more power to men, and women are disadvantaged in this sort of society. And the patriarchal power rests on social meaning given to biological sexual difference. Moving on to the first broad area of research, feminism. When we look at feminism, it can be classified into four stages: early feminism, first wave feminism, second wave feminism, and post-feminism. When we look at early feminism, we see the gender stratification, which is very much evident, be it the classical philosophy, the scriptures, like the Bible or the Hindu scriptures or the Holy Quran, or the Aristotelian philosophy. All these works considered women as inferior. Moving on to first wave feminism. First wave was generally about a fight for equal rights. Women felt this pressure of subordination, and they started to fight for their rights, to talk about their right to freedom. It all started with the publication of the work Vindication of the Rights of Women in 1792 by Mary Wollstonecraft. And she was a great woman who clamored for the education of women. She herself belonged to a family of governesses, and she understood that only if women are educated, only the educated mother can raise a stable society. Though it was one of the first important works, Vindication of the Rights of Women, it wasn't much radical, but rather it spoke very clearly about the need to educate women. And following this, we have the Caroline Norton case, which brought reforms in the judiciary. Now, Caroline Norton was a very learned person, and her husband, Mr. George, abducted their 3 children and refused to give custody of the children to his wife, stating that she was not a good woman. Now, this infuriated Caroline Norton, and she started reading a lot and writing a lot of petitions. And we have to thank this lady that this changes came up, the Infant Custody Act and the Right to Property Act. Of course, it did not happen overnight. There were a lot of revisions and corrections, and finally these bills were passed in the parliament. Another very important movement in the first wave was the role of the suffragettes. Now, the suffragettes were a group of women who started to fight for the right to vote. Women did not have the right to vote as men. Initially, they were very calm and quiet, and very peacefully they demonstrated their protest. But nothing happened. So at one point, they even became militant, and they were ready to demand and get their rights. And before these militant activities escalated, the World War started. So the entire world scenario changed, and all were concentrating more on the World War. Anyway, by 1928, women got the freedom as men. They were enfranchised on the same terms as men, and they got the right to vote. Initially, only women above 30 were allowed to vote, and in 1928, it was reformed, and all women were given the right to vote. Moving on to the second wave of feminism, when the first wave was more about fight for rights and need for education, all basic things, second wave was more of a process of consciousness raising. And this was a period after the right to vote, after the world wars, and lots of women across the world started to write a lot on this process of consciousness raising. And we have women from France, from England, from US, writing a lot of very important books. And if you see the list of books that I'm showing it on the screen, along with the timeline, you will find that it was almost around the same timeline. The important books were Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex, which spoke about cultural construction of woman as other. She said, one is not born, but rather becomes a woman. And you have The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan, Sheila Robotham's Women's Consciousness, Man's World, another path-breaking book by Kate Millett titled Sexual Politics. She was a radical feminist, and this phrase, sexual politics, became popularized because of this book with the same title. Then we have writers like Juliet Michel, Anne Codet, Shulamit Firestone's The Dialectic of Sex, Germaine Gray's The Female Eunuch, Eva Quigg's Patriarchal Attitudes, all written in the early 70s. Also, the French theorists like Helen Sicou and Julia Kristeva, they also contributed towards this process of consciousness raising. Now, another very important term which was coined by Elaine Showalter in her critical essay towards a feminist poetics was the term gynocriticism. I have a lot of admiration for this lady who thought it was bold enough to write an essay saying that we women need a different kind of framework, a different set of rules to analyze the books written by women. And she also talks about the different stages of writing by women. She talks about the feminine stage, the feminist stage, and the female stages. In the feminine stage, which was roughly between 1840 and 1880, The women writers, they had just started to explore writing. So it was a natural tendency to imitate the male writers, and most of them had to use pseudonyms. They never revealed that it was a woman who was writing. Only then the books would be published. Then we have the feminist stage from 1882 to 1920, when women writers expressed the sufferings faced by women about their rights. So all these works were concentrating on this thing. And finally, we have the female stage, which is from 1920 till date. Okay, so now women from 1920, women depend on their own attitude and experience, and they are actively participating in the literary process. Now, we don't call it as third wave of feminism. We call it as post-feminism, meaning to say there is no need of equal rights and fight for that. We have gone beyond that. All are equal. I've put a quote by the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau. We shouldn't be afraid of the word feminist. Men and women should use it to describe themselves. So this is how a change can happen in society. Another broad area of research would be masculinity studies. It is a relatively new approach to analyze literature. Now, what is masculinity studies? It shows or exposes the damaging impact of patriarchy. Though we say patriarchy was made the women disadvantaged, it also had a damaging effect on men, how they were expected to be, the roles that they were expected to perform. So it celebrates alternative masculinities over hegemonic ideals. And thus you can do an analysis of male protagonists in the literary works. You also have subversive masculinities, toxic masculinities. These are other areas in which you can try to do research. There's another quote by Chimamanda Ngozi. She says, masculinity is a hard, small cage, and we put boys inside this cage. Okay, so we expect the boys to grow up and be very strong and confident. So there's a lot of pressure on these young boys. The three worst words you could say to a boy are, be a man. The next area would be queer theory and LGBT studies. Now, what is queer theory? Queer theory's contention is there is no set norm. There's nothing called as normal. We have only changing norms, and people may or may not fit into this. Okay. And LGBT stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people's right. The identity issues faced by these people, the focus on unjust laws, unequal treatment, censorship, medical abuses, discrimination in health and jobs and housing. Now there are newer fields where research can be done on queer ethnic studies, queer post-colonial studies, and transgender studies. I have a quote by Judith Butler here. She's very famous for her performativity theory. I would say that I'm a feminist theorist before I'm queer theorist or a gay and lesbian theorist. Now, with the focus on PG syllabus, the syllabus that you have for this program, I find a lot of books which you can connect with this gender studies. You have a paper exclusively on women's writing. I have just focused on Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own, where Virginia Woolf talks about the pressure and the problems, the challenges that she faced as a woman writer. And it's a very beautiful essay, which was actually a lecture she gave at an institution. And she talks about how two things are very necessary for women to write creatively. She analyzes why there weren't enough women writers in the past. And she says, a woman should have a room of her own, and she should be financially independent. And if she has these two things, she can definitely do a lot of creative writing. You also have this very beautiful play called Top Girls by Carol Churchill. Now, in this play, Carol Churchill, she brings a sort of a meeting of 5 women who belong to different ages. In the contemporary age, we have Marlene, who's the head of a institution called the Top Girls Establishment, and she's very competitive, and she's a high-ranking official there. She's achieved a lot as a woman, and she meets different characters. You have Isabella Bird from 19th century, who's a British explorer, Lady Nijo, who's a 13th century concubine who later became a Buddhist monk. You have Dalgret, she's a character from a painting by Bruegel, and you have Pope Joan. So there's a very interesting conversation among all these characters. And the idea of Churchill is to explore the challenges faced by different women across different ages. And then you also have Ellen Showalter's Towards a Feminist Poetics in the same paper. You also have different papers like Green Literature and India Studies. I have taken some works from there which you can have a gendered reading of the text. It just shows that the area gender studies, the intersectionality of the topic. Okay, so in Green Literature, you have a concept called ecofeminism. Sumati ma'am will be doing on that. And then in the paper Literary Criticism and Theory, you have a subtopic called Feminist Literary Criticism, where you'll be studying about gender theory. And in the paper India Studies, you have a short story called The Breast Giver by Mahasweta Devi. She's an Indian writer, and the story Breast Giver is a very moving story of Yashoda. And the protagonist is named Yashoda after the name of the mother of Lord Krishna. As you know, Yashoda never gave birth to Lord Krishna, but she only raised him. So that's the name given to the protagonist. In a very nice, and she talks, Yashoda's job is to be a wet nurse, and she feeds a lot of children, and towards the end you find that she dies of breast cancer. So that's a very interesting work that you'll be doing. Now I just given the slide as research questions. So I was just thinking how to focus you on the research point of view, and I've postulated some sample questions from where you can use it as a starting point for research. Some of the questions that I've given here are, what gender roles do the female characters have? You can take a particular literary piece and you can ask these questions. Are there differences in gender portrayals of the characters in the literary works that is designated as modern and postmodern? Does the selected work cast the female and male genders using certain patterns, and are the gender patterns polar opposites? So a nice study of that. Does the gender of the playwright make any difference in the portrayal of gender and the characters that he or she creates? So if the writer is male or female, does that have an influence in his or her writing? You can also have a gendered reading of the medieval period, the Renaissance, or the Restoration period. You can also have a study conducted under different time periods, and this can give us some information on how gender behavior was characterized at other times in recorded history. So these are just sample questions which you can think over. This is a transgender poetry that I saw on the internet. It goes like this: blue, pink, white, blue, pink. I can't seem to shake what others think. Blue is always associated with boys and pink is associated with girls. So it's just an insight into the gender roles that a small child right from birth is expected to perform or project. So I'm stopping my presentation with this quote. Gender roles are a social construct. When we attempt to assign strengths and weaknesses to either gender, we literally cut our potential as the human race in half. So I hope all of you will have a better awareness of gender, and I hope I have helped to give you some insight into this broad area of gender studies. There's lots more to be discussed and spoken about, but I've just limited myself to this 15 minutes allotted to me. Thank you, and I wish to thank HOD Dr. Maria Preeti Srinivasan for giving me this opportunity to deliver this lecture, and I also thank Dr. Shivaraman for chairing this session. Thank you so much. Over to Sumati ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. So, basically, we have discerned the differences between the types of feminism, its purpose, and the effective changes that feminist policies have brought in and the trends that brought in the world. Now I request Mrs. Kartika Ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of English, to introduce the resource person. It is going to be discussed on eco-criticism.
Just for a small change, ma'am, instead of Kartika, I am Vasugi, who is going to introduce you. It's a privilege. It's a great privilege that I am going to introduce my friend, Dr. Sumati ma'am, who is going to present a paper on eco-criticism. So Madam Sumati ma'am is a proud student of Dr. Chellappan from Bharatidasan University, Trichy. She has 23 years of teaching experience, having strong passion for teaching and sharing knowledge. She has presented papers in more than 10 conferences at national and international level. She has also published many articles in various reputed journals. She is an ardent lover of nature, and she can name and number many herbs, plants, and trees just at the sight of them. Her close association with environment has made her an expert in green studies. Not only in English literature, her prowess in Tamil literature in relation to eco-criticism is well known. I'm very happy to welcome you, ma'am, to present an overview of green literature. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Vasuni. Well,
yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank our esteemed principal and our the Department of English for a wonderful opportunity given to share about really discussed concept eco-criticism. It has been discussed honestly and widely in the past few decades. What is eco-criticism? Why it is a necessity? Why it should be given such a great importance? Actually, it is derived from the Greek term oikos, which means house, a natural world, the physical world known for innumerable species, both living and non-living. From this word oikos, the term ecology is developed. You all know very well that ecology is concerned with the various kinds and relations between plants, animals, and to their surroundings and the environment. And the term ecology was first coined by Ernst Haeckel. He is a German biologist. In the year 1866, he coined this term ecology. And therefore, eco is the short form of ecology. Eco-criticism is the study of literature and the physical world. It examines the multiple ways how literature treats the subject of nature. William H. Rookett, he coined the term in the book. Title of the book is Literature and Ecology, an Experiment in Eco-Criticism, and that was published in the year 1978. And in that book, he said that nature is concerned with complex interactions and with a large sets of interrelationships. No one now can say that they can lead their life alone. Eco-criticism as a movement started in the year 1990 in America and spread to England later and then to other parts of the world. In America, it was first defined by Cheryl Gladfelty. She is an eminent professor of literature and environment there in the University of Nevada. She introduced this as a literary concept in the academics. It is also called as green literature, green cultural studies in Britain, and environmental criticism, eco-literature, and so on in other places. Eco-criticism in the context of scope is looked as a broad approach, as its heterogeneity paves way for the emergence of many other concepts. In USA, the acknowledged Gladfelty as a founder of Association for the Study of Literature and Environment, that is shortly otherwise called as ASLE. She has its own house journal called as ISLE, Interdisciplinary Studies in Literature and Environment, in 1993. Afterwards, special focus have been given for the study of the concept eco-criticism. And why it is growing so soon as an interdisciplinary. Many refer to eco-criticism synonymously as the study of literature and environment. Since we are part of the environment and something wrong has happened there, and we are all afflicted with some pain and fear, and therefore it is highly imperative for literary writers to show their effective role. Among them, Lotfelty and Frum, in their seminal work, Eco-Criticism Reader, they collected a lot of ideological concepts of nature, and they compiled in this book, Eco-Criticism Reader, and in this, she states, eco-criticism takes an earth-centered approach to literary studies rather than anthropocentric or human-centered approach. What does it mean by anthropocentric approach? And in this, man is considered as a superior being, superhuman being, and the other entities of nature is pushed to periphery. And this prejudiced notion is the main cause for the hearty thoughts to misuse nature, power-centered ideologies of human beings that shows least concern upon the significance of nature, polluted air, soil, water, and damaged the whole environment by keeping the world thundered with emissions. This destructive condition of the world is looked in eco-critical sense as eco-catastrophe. Therefore, in this dire situation, while the whole world is because of advancement in science and misuse of the science and the prejudiced notion that man is at the center, all these that make others to realize their responsibilities. Hence, the responsible scientists, politicians, benefactors, philanthropists have started plunging into action. At this desperate time, only, this emergent movement, eco-criticism, is ideally looked to by writers to rectify human errors, with the hope that at least the next generation would be leading their pollution-free life. As far as the term eco-criticism concerned, like a feminism also, this has been divided into waves to historicize the movement in a clear trajectory. In the book, Eco-Critical Futures, Lawrence Buell cited these waves. According to him, the first wave of eco-criticism tended to take a dehistoricized approach. A dehistoricized approach to nature. It's a celebratory. This is a celebratory approach, and this approach of enjoying the beauty of wilderness and nature writing is identified by literary writers like Margaret Fuller, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and Henry David Thoreau. They are also called as transcendentalists who enjoy the life force in the manifold wilderness of nature with rivers, trees, forests, mountains, land, etc. Then eco-criticism is expanded into a second wave also. It challenges the looming environmental crisis arising from industrial, individual, governmental, and commercial activities. It questions the basic binaries such as nature, culture, human, non-human, and so on. It challenges the patriarchal culture construction and questions the Enlightenment legacy of humanism. And in this then this concept eco-criticism is further growing into a third wave of criticism. It advocates for a global understanding of eco-critical practice through issues like global warming, and it combines elements from the first and second waves, but aims to go beyond Anglo-American prominence. Now there are hundreds of books and articles and chapters written about eco-criticism. And a lot of concepts are springing out from eco-criticism. To name a few, we have eco-psychology, ecofeminism, anthropomorphism, animism, eco-egalitarianism, and post-colonial eco-criticism, bioregionalism, and so on. Through these concepts, eco-critics, deep ecologists, those who deep ecology is nothing but it is about the study of looking at everything with equal eye. The critics of all these concepts are concentrating on how to preserve nature by making or getting human beings realize about their wrong conception that they are superior being. And therefore, with the hope that through indigenous culture, by implementing that and avoiding making use of much of science and scientific that is implications that is very havoc to the environment, they are now paving way for by rectifying the errors of human errors. By rectifying it, they want to lead a glorious life. And therefore, in this context, that as we can have a special focus on these writers like Cheryl Gladfeldy's contributions, Simon C. Estock, Harold Frum, William Howard, William Rookett, and Sulan Campbell, Glenn A. Lau, Michelle Branch, and so on. And therefore, now there is a call for a worldwide concern to protect the environment in which we live, as it is left in the hands of every human being to protect it. As Gandhiji says, there is enough for every man's need on this earth, but not enough for every man's greed. Therefore, eco-critics are with the hope that if we are ready to accept, understand, discern the meaning of this, definitely we can give guarantee to the sustenance of a glorious generation that follows. Thank you, Anand.
Thank you, dear Professor Sumati, for introducing us to a very new area of criticism. And actually, it was actually a call to nature lovers, if I might say so. And thank you for giving us these lovely green insights. Over to our dear Angeline Fernando, who's going to speak on ELT, English Language Teaching.
And I would like to
Thank you, Preeti ma'am.
just a few seconds, Angeline ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to share that is your things about your achievements. Angeline Fernando is a very promising professor, and she achieved university first rank while she was doing her UG course in Manonmaniam Sundara University, and has her passion for teaching times around 15 years. She is known for presenting papers in national and international seminars. Hope that the students, it would be highly beneficial for the students about the overview and the insight Angeline ma'am is going to share with them. That's all.
Thank you so much, Sumati ma'am, for those encouraging words. All right. So I hope I'm audible. Am I? Just give me a thumbs up sign. Yeah. Thank you, Vinita. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. So my talk would be on ELT, and I would start my presentation right now. I'm going to share the screen. Yes. I hope the screen is visible. Yes. Thank you so much. All right. So good afternoon, one and all. I think the speakers who have gone before me have set the pace, and the ones who continue behind me after the lunch break will do so likewise. And it's been an amazing session. And so a very warm welcome to all our first year participants. Yes, we haven't met you in person. We have met some of you during the admission time. So it's a big hi and a welcome to all of you, a warm welcome on behalf of all the staff members over here. All right, yes. So ELT. You all know ELT stands for, yes, it's an abbreviation for English language teaching. Yes, of course, yes. You've all done a part of it in your UG course. Now, what is Angeline ma'am going to say here? Fine. Just a few insights from my point, just a kind of an overview, all right? Just a small drop in the ocean. That is what I'm going to share right now. Now, ELT can now be also said as e-learning and teaching or e-learning and training, what's happening right now during the COVID time. But I would like to first look at the E. Okay, what does an E mean to me? I would like to look at the E as explore. Explore, explore what is out there, explore your inner potential to deliver what is out there. All right? It's a kind of a two-way road. And this exploring of this potential as well as what is outside, the content, the technologies, the resources, the effective methods of teaching will really help you and the students as well. All right? The next term that I would like to associate with E is experiment. Come on, experiment? Yes, experiment with what you know and what you have. I tell you, even if you're handling the same paper for a couple of years, every time you meet a new batch of students, you really have to tweak it, isn't it? According to the receptivity of those students. So we need to leverage our existing social media technologies and help them to support our learning as well as our teaching program. So tweak what you have to suit or support the target heterogeneous group of students. That's the second one. And you can also work with your pedagogical content, with your knowledge of the pedagogical content. All right. So content is a subject matter, pedagogy are the instructions that you use or the instructional methods that you use, and your knowledge of that really helps you to experiment. All right. Then elevate. Come on. Elevate is a wonderful word. Okay. Elevate yourself. And in the process, you will also be elevating your students as well. All right. Make them aware. How? By giving them competence, confidence, linguistic competence, especially. Imagine students entering the portals of our institution with a particular set of linguistic competence. Does it really grow during their stay there? Or does it sadly remain the same, or even worse, become lesser than what it was when they entered the portals of the institution? So, this is where we have to elevate them. So, first, when you elevate yourself, you can automatically elevate the students who come under your care. Now, we can do this by employing creative teaching methods. So when I say creative teaching methods, I'm talking about novel, original, inventive teaching methods and not exactly teaching creativity for the students. That will gradually happen when they take the spark from you. I also talk about instructional innovation, where you bring in new ideas, new teaching methods, and new devices. We talk about blended learning, where online media and face-to-face teaching is also done. And flipped learning, where the lecture that's happening is done at home. Okay, your practice is done at home. All right. And why do you use the classroom? You use the classroom for actual interactive learning sessions. So you try to elevate the standards. It's both a personal journey and a professional journey, befitting and benefiting both. All right. Yes. The next one that I would say is elicit. Now, very often we fail to elicit responses from the students. All right. We need to inculcate a bit of a patience for that. All right. So we need to elicit responses from them. And here it is here that task-based learning or TBL really helps, where you have a pre-task, you have a task and a post-task or a review. Now here, you actually have to think and plan along these lines to make use of tasks as a part of instruction and language teaching. Okay, this TBL is a logical development of CLT, communicative language teaching. All right, so you be patient enough. Very often we give them a task and we ask them to respond immediately. Let it soak in, let them come back to us after a couple of days. Usually give the task during the weekend. I find it works many of the times. All right, there. The next E that I would say is, what is that? Yeah, you can see that there. It is engage and encourage. Very, very true. You really need to engage them and you really need to encourage them. So how do you do that? First, the learner should be ready, isn't it? What is this learner readiness? The learner should be in a state or a condition where he is ready, he or she, the student is ready to engage in a given learning activity. Once they are in that particular state, then learner engagement is truly possible. Now, how do you do that? Okay, so they become meaningfully involved in the process. There's active participation, there's a willingness to walk the extra mile along with the teacher, all right? And then there's persistence, and there's also a desire to succeed. So I've spoken about all these things. I limit myself to E over here, but the list is endless. And now after E, I would like to go on to L. Come on, L. L is for language, yes, but I would like to say L stands for the love of language. Okay. Now, language is the greatest invention of humanity. I know you'd agree with that. It helps us communicate and all that. But one note of caution over here. Now, this system that we have, it usually equates intelligence with the knowledge of English. It's quite arbitrary. All right. So let us not fall into that trap when we become teachers, when you become teachers, when you're imparting the language. All right. So let us inculcate in them a love of the language. Let us help them explore the language, experiment the language, elevate the language, elicit the kind of love of the language from them. All right. And engage and encourage them to further enhance their love of the language. Now, how can we do that? All right, that comes through T. What is this T? I see T for training, teaching, and transforming. Can mean much more, but I'm limiting myself to this right now. So training, teaching, transforming. How does this happen? This happens through practice. This happens through practice. Okay. Now, what do we do now in the classroom as teachers? We try to create opportunities for practice, especially speaking. We either give them controlled practice sessions or less controlled sessions, but the main aim is to make it more relevant and dynamic. All right? Create in them a dire need for communicating in English. Now, here I would like to quote Professor N. Ilango, who says, do not alienate, but make them salivate. Okay? Make them hunger for more. Don't alienate them by picking them out for task and everything. Make them come forward. Here we really, so once again, engage, encouraging the students comes over here too. All right? Not to alienate, but to make them salivate. Overcome the obstacles and the challenges of the setting. Yes, now we have overcome that, but in a different way, we're facing them in online classrooms. The number of students in a class, how do you actually engage them in a task? Okay, how do you pair them for tasks? Okay, whether it's a group task or a pair task, within the 50 or 55 minutes that we have, are we really able to mentor them? So all these are challenges that we face on a daily basis. So we take it gradually, give them group tasks, then pair tasks, and then individual tasks where we ask them to come forward, where they get rid of their inhibitions. All right, fine. Then transform. Transform what? So transform the way they look at the language. How can we do that? So the mobile phone, more than being a distractor right now, let us make it as a common denominator for engaging the students. Okay, let's start incorporating multimedia contents. There is one app called as Fluent U, where they can learn any language with the context and everything, and they can do it in their own paced manner. Now, I can proudly say the Department of English, Queen Mary's College, has got its soft skills course where we have incorporated TED Talks as a part of a soft skills course. So, what is the benefit of this TED Talks? So, at the end of every session, we have suggested a few TED Talks for the students. Now, this makes language learning lessons both interesting and enjoyable. It supports their learning. It helps them to read because there are subtitles below that. They're speaking, their listening skills, everything is enhanced, and they're also motivated. I know pronunciation is very important. It gives them a lot of confidence to go forth, all right? But when they are listening to cross-cultural speakers, it gives them a kind of confidence that, come on, I too can speak. It is the content that matters more. I am not undermining the importance of pronunciation. It's very important, but then it comes with practice. Perfection comes with practice, and they learn to express their ideas. So this is what we are doing in the English department, and we have tried it, and it really works. Now, I spoke to you about training and teaching and transforming. And I spoke to you about all this being there, and you'll be seeing all this too. Now, the very topic that we have is new vistas of research. So I have to mention at least the tip of the iceberg. It is really a vast area over there. And let us focus on action-based research, which is right now the norm of the day, which aims at changing people's practices. Okay, it is called as community-based research, collaborative inquiry, but the main aim here is to make the results of the research applicable. All right, so your own classroom can be a place of research for you. Now, another thing that has made us greatly aware during this pandemic time is the digital divide. So the disparities and the socioeconomic inequalities are very evident now. So your research can be on that. Now, what is the importance of imparting digital literacy? It is important both for the students and the teachers. Okay, all of us need specific professional development activities. You can also focus on the outcomes of flipped classrooms, about the novel and non-traditional ways of applying technology to bring about augmented and virtual reality. Okay, all this is there. So this teaching, this training, this transforming, this inculcating of the spirit of research in our students, all of this, how should it be done? Is it enough if we just go through all those methods and approaches? Yes, of course. Will that alone suffice? I personally believe that that alone will not suffice. Along with that, you need what? You need passion. Yes. Okay, you need to have this passion for teaching, this passion for a connect with the students, this passion to engage with them, to go beyond, to learn more, to be humble enough to admit that there's a whole lot out there, all right, that is yet to be explored. You must have a passion that lets you welcome the notion that most of the times our students are very smart and they would have better ideas, and you humbly accept them to the same kind of passion. And sometimes, you need to have the passion to go on and not be demotivated. So, passion helps you ignite that spark. All right. Is passion alone enough? No, I would add the word compassion too. Come on. Compassion is such a beautiful word. The etymology of compassion means to suffer with. Now, what do we do when we have compassion? You really understand your students, what you're going through. You put yourself in their shoes. You learn to walk in their shoes. You will be a very, very, very compassionate teacher, and the students will really learn a lot from you, and you would understand them better. Now, with all this out there, okay, with all this out there, we are right now here in the online educational environment. So one advantage that I feel is that I can individually give them a feedback and they respond to me, whether it's correcting of papers, assignments, or whatever. And some of at least 20% of the students benefit from that. Let me be realistic, okay? And we can keep the learners motivated. We can keep things green. And one more very important thing during the current times is we have to empower them with safe internet practices. All right. So along with this, what I would like to say is that we have to create a world leading education. I mean, at least create that step towards world leading education and let them be aware that once they get this, there's a Pandora's box of opportunities waiting for them out there. All right. So let us provide them this English learning that sets them up for success. There's a very, very exceptionally good talk given by Dr. Aparna Srinivas, where she talks about the job opportunities, and that is there in our QMC portal on the website. So you can refer that too. Now, I would like to end on this note. This is the mantra that has kept me, propelled me forward. All right. Not everything that you do, all right, will always work all the time. All right. But at least you can try something new, all right, venture ahead and still be passionate about it. Okay. It's enough if you just create a ripple, all right, and then wait and see what that ripple creates in return. So my thing is inspire and be inspired. So good luck to you aspiring teachers or people who are ready to branch out to other avenues as well, using English as your weapon out there. So God bless. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Mr. Sanjay. Very power-packed and a very interesting speech. Sure, it will ignite the communicative competency in students. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
May I request Dr. Sivaram sir to share his review of the session too.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, I think we only have, so hats off to almost all the resource persons because they could finish it on time, and now there are only 5 more minutes to go, right? So I don't want to take much of your time. In fact, this session is very useful, but I want to not only sum up the points, but also take it forward and end it, of course, with a take-home message for all our students. So we had a talk on gender, we had a presentation on eco-criticism, and we had a talk on ELT. So dear students, let us take theory. See, these are new visitors, or these are new things, that's what they say. But when we take up theory at the postgraduate level and take it forward to the research level, in practice, it has so happened, that people proceed from theory to text. See, for example, for the sake of clarity, here Dr. Vinita Francis, of course, highlighted the rudiments of gender theory. And she came out with all the theoreticians right from Ellen Showalter up to Judith Butler. And we also had Sumati, who highlighted the rudiments of eco-criticism. And we also had Angeline, who highlighted all the theoretical notions of the pedagogy, right? The methods. Unfortunately, please, my dear students, it's for you, I say this. When we take up research or when we take up a project, because let's not proceed on to the research, because the first thing that we do is assignment or project. What do? We take up a particular text until the UG level. What have we done? We have merely concentrated on the textual aspects. See, for example, when you read a novel like Silas Marner, or when you read a play by Bernard Shaw, we take up the role being played by one person there in each work. So people often come out with a question, sketch the character of so and so, right? Sketch the character of Silas Marner, or sketch the character of somebody in any work for that matter. So what do? We simply reproduce the summary, and if not the summary, we try to relate the entire text to that particular role of the protagonist. So far, we have done that at the UG level, up to the UG level. So from the postgraduate level, when we are acquainted with all these theories, what we think is that we proceed from the theory to the text. See, for example, there is a concept of patriarchy. There is the concept of what is called gyno criticism or gyno text. There is this concept of performativity and all that. So what do? We try to go in search of the direct parallels between these theoretical concepts and the text that we have in our syllabus. So this is the danger, right? For the past 2 decades, I say this, I have been in this field for the past 2 decades. So in the last 15 years or so, in the name of research, what has happened is the application, the mechanical application of theory to text, which is to be avoided, my dear students. So you must proceed from the text and respond to these theoretical framework. That is absolutely important. It is not necessary that you will find the same parallel. You will find the direct example of the theories that have been taught in your classes. It will not happen. You will have to do your own thinking. It could work out at the initial stage, shall we say, at the beginning of the century, this particular century, in Indian academic institutions, people, especially in literature departments, went about merely applying all these theories to the text. It worked out for about 3 to 4 years. Later, it reached a point of saturation. And now it is not advisable to go ahead with that practice at all. So these theories, please get yourself acquainted with green studies, get yourself acquainted with gender, get yourself acquainted with these methods of teaching. But try to relate it to your own situation. That is very important. And that's why I said at the end of the last session, your net has given you the passport to enter this profession. But that doesn't assure you of the progress that you are supposed to make or the contribution that you are supposed to make in this particular field. So if you have to make a research, try to simplify the task which is relevant to your own situation, to our own practical situation. That's very important. So when you take up gender studies or when any other green studies for that matter, right? So these are all theoretical postures. So we have, and I also saw the paper India Studies in your paper, which is very important because area studies now has become very important. So take up the translation work all by yourself from your own literature. English literature has now reached a point of saturation. You can no longer work on, you can study T.S. Eliot, you can study classics, of course, as chief guest said in the inaugural address. So without the base, of course, you cannot do anything. But can you keep working on them is the question. So there is a need now to reread the classics, right? So when you take in the next session, Maria Preeti ma'am is going to let you know about post-colonial studies. So when you take up post-colonial studies, right, we are in a position to respond to that theory from our own perspective. We are not here merely to mechanically apply what Homi Bhabha has said, or what Gayatri Spivak has said, or what Edward Said has said. So they have all come out with their own postulates, no doubt about that. But how creative are we in our response to these theoretical things is what matters in our research. And the last point that I would like to make, of course, is the research statement that we need to prepare whenever we take up a mini project, even your own assignment. If you are assigned, if you are asked to submit an assignment on any particular text, please do not try to reproduce what is already there in the text. Right? So that's what I'll give you an example. With that, I'll stop. Virginia Woolf, all of you know it very well. She is known for the stream of consciousness technique. So what do students often do in the name of assignment? They take up, for example, Mrs. Dalloway, and what are you going to work? What are you going to work on? If you ask the student, more often than not, you find students coming out with such topics. The stream of consciousness technique, the use of stream of consciousness technique in Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway, or Virginia Woolf's The Waves. You cannot come out with such assignments. With such topics for your assignments. Please. Right. So what do you have to do? First of all, you need to respond to the theory. Sometimes you can work against it. Sometimes you can improvise upon it, but never duplicate it. So these mantra that I would provide you with, right, for your research. Number one, never duplicate the work. Instead, try to sail against the current. Try to, if you can prove beyond doubt, right, or if you can prove that Virginia Woolf's stream of consciousness technique, of course, is not something that needs to be mentioned there. Take, for example, the short story Kew Garden. Right? When you are able to, where she talks about the garden, the park and all that. So the Kew Garden, everyone says that it is all about the projection of the inner reality of the people who inhabit that park. But when you can concentrate on the sociological, historical context of that particular location, instead of merely going by what stream of consciousness has already projected, it would be a contribution to the field. If we can work against the beaten track, right? So that is very important. If we can, not that it should always be against it, you could also go on improvising upon what has already been done. So that is also one of the possibilities. See, for example, I'll leave you with one example. For example, we have Indian writing in English, right? So we have plays, we have Indian plays. So what do people often work when they work on Indian theatre? They say identity crisis in such a play. It is, they come out with a thematic study, right? So it is already there. Anybody who goes through that play will understand that particular theme. So what is there for the researchers to say that there is such a thing which anybody can make out? Anybody who goes through that text, of course, can make out. So that's why you need to fix the text in its larger context. And for that, you must proceed from the text and respond to these theories so that you will end up adding a new dimension to the theoretical framework. So that way you will end up improvising upon the theoretical work as well. Let me just give you one example from Girish Karnad, who is often prescribed in Indian writing English drama. When you work on Girish Karnad's plays, Nagamandala, or The Fire and the Rain, or any play for that, Tughlaq, any play for that, people often say how Girish Karnad has treated history in Tughlaq. That cannot be a topic for research now, because it has already been worked out. And how Girish Karnad has come out with the technique, right? The folk technique, the Yakshagana technique in some of his plays like Hayavadana, Nagamandala, even that has been worked out. Now you have to fix that performance text of these plays in the larger context of the present situation. He seems to make use of the folklore technique. He seems to make use of the Sanskrit classical theatre, and he also makes use of the Brechtian technique and the proscenium stagecraft. So what could be the reason? So when you can go in for the socio-political implications of these techniques, which the playwright, of course, has used in his plays, that could be a contribution to the field. Because as all of us, of course, have realized, theory has made our study of literature merely multidisciplinary, not even interdisciplinary, but multidisciplinary. So you need to cross the boundaries, and let us not have them as static boundaries or fixed boundaries. So that's what cultural studies, of course, tell you, and that's what these are the topics which will be dealt with in the next session. So these are new visitors, but when you are acquainted with these new theories, I call them new because for the students who have just now joined BA, MA, they are new. So when you join or when you acquaint yourself with this theoretical framework, never proceed from the theoretical work to the text. Work instead from the text to the theory and see how well, of course, the theory can fit, the text can fix into the framework. I'm very sure not all texts, not even a single text, of course, will fit exactly into the framework. So you need to fix the point of not only adherence but also deviation. So when you try to fix the point of adherence to the theory, you need to give examples from the text, which is very easy. The second part is you need to fix the point of deviation that the text, of course, makes from the theoretical work. And it's not enough if you just locate this point of deviation that the text, of course, makes from the theoretical framework. You need to account for that deviation. And that is where the inference from the data, of course, matters a lot. You need to make an inference, and that inference has to be validated by either historical or sociological or political data. That's very important. So the point of deviation that the text, of course, makes from this theoretical work. Any text is bound to make that point of deviation, right, from the theoretical framework, and people had to account for it. What could be the reason for that point of deviation? And when you are able to relate that reason to the contemporary situation, you can, of course, be said to have done your research meaningfully. So with these words, I would like to place on record, because my deep sense of gratitude to Dr. Maria Preeti Srinivasan for having organized this wonderful orientation program for the PG students. So whatever has been said, I'm very sure will not make any sort of immediate impact on the students. Students நிறைய பேர் கவனிச்சிருக்கலாம், என்னென்னமோ சொன்னாங்க அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி ஒரு ஃபீலிங் வரும், right? I'm very sure of it, but I'm very sure it will go a long way, in the sense it will sink, and later it will have a huge impact on your career, on your higher studies as you go further. A great man does not wake up one fine morning and say, I found myself famous. It's not possible. So you have to go the way of all flesh. You have to, in fact, put in effort. These are all things, of course, which may not enter your head immediately. Right? So this is a process. It is not a product that we have come here to display to you. Right? We have not come here to display it as a product so that you can get attracted to towards buying that product. It is a process to which all of us, of course, have to subject ourselves rather willingly, consciously, passionately. So with that, I'm very sure you will all make your postgraduate program really meaningful. And all the NET or the JRF thereafter will become a mere addition, will become a mere cakewalk for all of you. So I wish the entire department all the best and best of luck, of course, for the days to come. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your effective comments, opinions upon the perspectives. May I request?
Yes, Sumati madam, we will break for lunch now,
Yeah.
and come back at 1:40.
Yeah, it's time.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, thanks a lot. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. I have so much to say as thanks, but I won't take your time.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Yeah.
Session 3, resource persons, will come back at 1:40. 1:40 sharp.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.